All right, guys, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is our August Board of Regents committee meeting. First up will be the Legislative Committee. Members, please remember that you're being live streamed, so you'll need to turn on your microphones and silence your phones. Regent Meir, will you please call your committee to order?
I'd like to call the August Legislative Committee meeting to order. Ms. Golden Phillips, will you call the roll?
Absolutely. Regent Meir.
Present.
Regent May. Regent Aubrey.
Present.
Regent Reeves. Regent Shamia.
Present.
Regent Temple. Regent Nacheva. LCTC System Representative. LSU System Representative. Southern System Representative. UL System Representative. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is item 3, policy updates. Members, we have a number of updates coming before you. These updates are primarily based on legislation passed during the 2026 regular legislative session. These policy updates are necessary to ensure the continued health and well-being of our students across all our campuses. We will now hear an overview of the 8 different policies of today's agendas across several committees. Ms. Golden Phillips, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be before you again today. I'm not going to delve too much in this slide, but as Regent Meir already mentioned, we do have quite a bit of policies that will be before you for approval today. Starting with the Legislative Committee, I will be seeking approval for the Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy, as well as approval for amendments for the Uniform Policy on Power-Based Violence. In Academic and Student Affairs, there are several policies that will be before you in that committee, most notably dual enrollment as well as accreditation. And just as a note, there are several policies, one or two that were not legislatively required. And as you see on the screen right here, the joint policy with Louisiana Workforce Pell, that was not required as a result of legislation. And additionally, with the remaining policies, you will have a policy before you in facilities and property, and then in research and sponsored initiatives, you'll have the Bourse of Endowment Program policy additions. Additionally, not a policy that was not required as a result of legislation.
Thank you. Item 3A features amendments to the anti-hazing uniform policy. During the 2026 regular legislative session, the governor signed House Bill 636, the Caleb Wilson Anti-Hazing Prevention Act, into law. This law requires anti-hazing training for school administrators, a public online database of reported hazing incidents at state-funded schools, and permanent campus bans for student organizations found liable in hazing death. The law is named for Caleb Wilson, a Southern University student who tragically lost his life in 2025 during an alleged hazing ritual. Today, we have joining us Mrs. Urania Wilson, a good friend of mine and the mother of Caleb's mother, who would like to share some brief remarks. Ms. Wilson, the floor is yours.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much, Ms. Reed. Is it on? Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Reed, for accepting this bill. It's really hard because we don't want to see another child life taken or even hurt for that matter. And if we watch the news every day, you'll see what's going on the news with the different universities. And I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I think I know Louisiana can be the leader for the country in this bill. And I just want to thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. You know, we've watched this over time, and we watch you become a stalwart for this anti-hazing policy, you and your family. And we know it's tough, but we want to thank you for continuing to be an advocate. We get pushed by, obviously, things that happen in higher education, and this was one of those things that happened that we're really strongly for. But it's your passion. And, you know, you had to go through hurt, obviously, but it's important now. It's in the forefront, not only in Louisiana, but it's in the forefront of the United States. Correct. So thank you for coming aboard and talking to us and making your presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Golden Phillips, we will now share the amendments proposed for the Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy.
Thank you so much, and also I'd be remiss if I didn't also thank Representative Vanessa LaFleur for carrying and authoring this monumental piece of legislation. There are quite a few changes to the Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy today, and I'll be going over some of the most substantial changes. Firstly, there is enhanced institutional accountability and sanctions. What this mainly does is this will strengthen the institutional accountability by establishing enhanced sanctions for hazing violations, including permanent banishment of an organization when a hazing incident results in a student's death. Next, enhanced organizational reporting and accountability. This will establish an organizational reporting obligation and clear expectations for reporting alleged hazing incidents, coordinating with law enforcement and documenting institutional actions, and also while maintaining the confidential and anonymous reporting mechanism so that someone, if they do witness a hazing incident, can report it anonymously. Additionally, there is comprehensive prevention and educational training as it relates to hazing. This will strengthen the institutional responsibility to provide comprehensive hazing prevention education for students and expand annual training requirements for recognized student organizations, organizational advisors, as well as those who participate in institutional hearing panels. And then lastly, one of the larger pieces as well is public disclosure and transparency of hazing incidents that occur on campus. This expands public disclosure requirements by requiring institutions to maintain publicly accessible information regarding organizational findings of responsibility for hazing and disciplinary actions while protecting individual student privacy. And with that, senior staff recommends approval of the additions to the Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy.
Thank you, Ms. Golden Phillips. Members of the Legislative Committee, is there a motion to accept these amendments for the Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy? We have a motion by Regent May, a second by Regent Oliver Reeves to approve this Uniform Anti-Hazing Policy. Any questions on readiness?
One question that I have.
Regent Auburn.
Yes, Ms. Golden. With regard to the disclosure, do we have a, I assume if there is a complaint filed, it's at the campus level and that there is some sort of a report, an annual report? Where do we as regents, where do we collect, and since we're in the 25 page of the paper data, where does that fit? And do we have a, as part of our public disclosure requirements, do we have a report that will say at school here we've had 25 instances? Not necessarily, who and what, all the details, but do you see some, can you watch the data and see if there need to be more training or more involvement to make sure that there's nothing happening at certain places than others?
I'll give the quick high-level overview, and then I'm going to toss it over to my colleague, Dr. Allison Smith. Yes, the Board of Regents on an annual basis moving forward will get a rolled-up administrative report of hazing incidents that will have occurred at institutions. It will actually be attached to the power-based violence report that you all get every year that we have to annually report to the legislature. Allison?
Yes, that will now be included due to a mix of state legislature that we have here and the federal Stop Campus Hazing Act, which now requires a campus hazing transparency reporting. That is to be done, updated twice a year, and to align that with more closely aligning with state law, we decided to attach it to our routine power-based violence. So April 10th, there will be updates, and then October 10th, there will be update. And when that report rolls up to the Board of Regents, you all will get that report each year, and it will also go to the legislature, and we have expanded the committees that report goes to. So not just the ones that were designated in power-based violence statute, but also the ones that were listed in the Caleb Wilson Hazing Prevention Task Force statute. They will also get that report now. You will be able to track it. We will be able to see X institution had X number of instances. And with the public disclosure, what it will require is a form to be placed online, so you can click on any organization. If there was a responsibility finding, you will be able to see all of the details for protecting except particular student information, where you will be able to see exactly what was the charge, what was the violated student code of conduct, and what was the amount of disciplinary sanction, and it has to stay up there for a minimum of the duration of the sanction.
Okay, I'm gonna test it out.
Yes, sir.
We sure you will. Any other questions on readiness? All in favor to approve the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Ayes have it, and the motion is passed. Item 3B features amendments to the Uniform Policy of Power.
Can we just, I don't know if Ms. Wilson has time to stay, but I just want to make sure to acknowledge her as you have for just being a steadfast champion. You know, we all have a heavy heart for you, and we know what a beautiful soul Caleb was and what a talented young man he was. But I want you to know that this board, when Caleb passed, this board met to talk about hazing, to talk about what we could do, and they've tracked this legislation all along the way, our chair and all of our board members, and they talked about their own experiences in college and the experiences of their children. So we're understanding the importance, and when I saw Ms. Wilson this morning, I told her, thank you for being here, because as you've mentioned, Regent Meir, she's been here every step of the way, and showing up is hard, but it is necessary. So when we see her, it reminds us of a higher calling to protect students, and so I just wanted to acknowledge that and say that we're going to do everything we can, and we know that you're going to continue to show up and ask tough questions of us, and we expect that, and we thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Reed. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, as well, for coming. Item 3B features amendments to the Uniform Policy of Power-Based Violence. During the 2021 regular legislative session, the legislature passed Act 472 to help keep Louisiana's higher education community safe and free from incidents of power-based violence. We will now hear the proposed revisions to the Uniform Policy on Power-Based Violence. Ms. Golden Phillips, please continue.
Thank you so much. Also, in the spirit of celebration, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Senator Regina Barrow, who also authored this legislation and chairs the Power-Based Violence Review Panel. And these amendments to this policy are reflective of their hard work. We meet up to twice a year to talk about campus safety and also meet informally. So with that, just very briefly, the updated revisions, there are three main pieces. One, there is now statutory alignment and clarity. What this will do is this clarifies that power-based violence applies to only conduct committed on the basis of sex, aligning with the definitions that are currently in existing Louisiana state law. So sex-related crimes, we wanted to make sure that this aligns with that. Additionally, it is in this policy that there's the implementation of enhanced prevention and educational outreach to make sure that institutions are at least informing their students up to 4 times a year on how to report power-based violence, where to go on campus, how to report to the Title IX coordinator. Additionally, this also directs institutions, and as we all know, we do have dual enrollment students on college campuses that are under the age of 18. It also instructs institutions to make sure that they share information on power-based violence in Title IX with their parents as well, so they are aware of the Title IX office, who's there, and how to get in contact with them. Additionally, I do want to say that in this policy, which was included in the appendix definition, it was to make sure that sexualized AI images are now considered a form of power-based violence. As we all know, as technology continues to evolve, so do other sex-related offenses and sex-based crimes. So if a student does decide to create a sexualized image on any type of AI platform, that will be something that will be looked at into by the Title IX office. And with that, senior staff recommends approval of the additions to the Uniform Policy on Power-Based Violence.
Thank you, Ms. Golden Phillips. Is there a motion to approve the amendments for the Uniform Policy of Power-Based Violence?
So moved.
We have a motion by Regent Arbery, a second by Regent May to approve the Uniform Policy on Power-Based Violence amendments. Any questions for discussion or unreadiness? Seeing none, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion carried. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Regent Aubrey, second by Regent Reeves. This committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Great committee. Thanks, guys, for all your work. Next is the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. Regent Sterling, will you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Chair Cardell. We have a very robust committee meeting today, so Dr. Denley, would you please call our committee to order?
Yes, ma'am. Regent Sterling,
Here.
Regent Creed, Regent Aubrey,
Here.
Regent Glazer, Regent Reeves, Regent Shamia,
Here.
Regent Nachaefa, LCTC representative, LSU representative, Southern representative, UL system representative.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our first item is the consent agenda, which includes routine staff approvals and program terminations. Dr. Denley, please proceed.
Thank you, yes. So we have, as you say, several very routine staff approvals, some name changes, some changes in SIP codes, some minor reorganizations of units, and a new graduate assistantship, graduate certificate for approval. And then we also have some further terminations. I do want to make sure that regents are aware we are right now in our bringing to the end of this cycle of the approval of all of our academic programs for the year. We have all together across this year with these terminations today terminated 50 programs. Altogether, since we began the work in the new phase of academic planning, we will have terminated 130 programs. And so I think campuses really have heard the wisdom from this board and taking really a good hard look at the programs that they have and the way in which they can perhaps reorganize resources on their campuses in the ways in which those can be incorporated into new programs. Clearly, there is more work to be done. There is always more work to be done. But with today's terminations, that is the total. At our next meeting in September, of course, I will bring requests for the coming year, but I will also, again, bring a list of new programs that are not part of that total, which will be for your consideration. So with that, senior staff recommend approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? Nachaeva is our motion, and Shamia will be our second. Is there any further discussion? Any questions, any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Next is item 4, academic programs. There's one academic program for us to consider today. Dr. Denley, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Yes, so today's new academic program is an AAS in Technical Studies at Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College. So I think members may well be familiar with this structure now. We have approved several programs. This is already now offered at 9 institutions across our community college system. But these are really important degrees to add. At Northwest, this technical diploma will include advanced manufacturing technology, automotive technology, diesel-powered equipment technology, HVAC technician, industrial maintenance technology, plumbing, residential, commercial, and industrial electrician, and welding. I'm sure I don't need to persuade you that those are extraordinarily important trades today. And so this AAS in Technical Studies allows students who have earned a technical diploma in any of those disciplines to then have a pathway towards further education. And so it doesn't require any new resources on the campus to do this. They already have all of the general education courses on their books and offer them regularly. This just allows a curricular pathway for students who have earned that technical diploma to now take some more gen ed classes and then allow that degree program to transfer into a bachelor's degree and then seek a further education. So with that, senior staff recommend approval of the academic program as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. That is awesome as a pathway to growth for individuals
It
who
really
are
is.
starting in our technical areas where we certainly need those trades. Is there a motion to accept the technical studies program at Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College? We have a motion by Reeves and a second by Mr. Smith. Is that correct? All right, want to make sure we get that right. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Is this going to, and I don't know if anyone's here from the campus, is this going to be for, I know they have like multiple sites. Will this be a degree that they would carry through at all the campuses?
Yes, sir.
Or
Yes, sir.
Minden, Shreveport,
Yes.
Mansfield? Okay, all of them.
You know them all.
We just happened to give them a little money lately, so I just,
I think the technical diplomas, of course, vary slightly
Sure.
campus to campus, but yeah, any,
but at least they could offer it,
exactly.
whether it's
Exactly.
NACADish, whatever, yeah.
Exactly right.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Regent Aubrey. Any other questions? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Next is item 5 on our agenda, approval of policies. I think Ms. Golden Phillips is going to, well, she provided an overview of the policies that we are going to hear today. We'll vote on 4 of these policies individually. Is that correct?
That's
We'll vote
exactly
on them
right.
one at a time.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, Dr. Denley.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as Regent Sterling said, there are four policy-related items altogether, really all related to action taken by the legislature. The first is the joint policy with Louisiana Works around Workforce Pell. So maybe it's worth me giving a little bit of a brief item around Workforce Pell. So really, Workforce Pell has grown out of federal action from the One Big Beautiful Bill. They've made changes to eligibility for the Pell Grant to now provide to provide support for students who are in particular short-term credentials that were not previously eligible for Pell support. For a program to be eligible, it has to satisfy quite a number of different eligibility standards. It has to be adjudged by that state to be a high-need, high-wage occupation that credential opens up. The program has to have a 70% graduation rate, a 70% placement rate, and the program has to live between 150 and 599 clock hours. So it is very carefully prescribed. Each state then goes through a process to establish in their state what are the programs that are eligible for consideration. We have done that. Louisiana Works and the Louisiana Board of Regents together were designated by the governor's office to be responsible for establishing that menu, if you will, of various types of programs that are eligible, and that list is actually in your packet on page 32 of the policy as it's presented. And you can see there, in fact, very similar list to the list I just read out at Northwest. There are electrical, mechanical, industrial, production, carpentry, electrical, building, construction, plumbing. So all of we know the crucial skilled trades which are so crucial to the work of LED in bringing the now, I think, $160 billion worth of investment to this state. So this is a terrific program for Louisiana to enable many more of our students to be able to have the support that they need, to be able to get that kinds of training, and so consequently provide the workforce that we need. We are at the beginnings of institutions getting approval for these programs. The first batch of programs were considered by the Workforce Pell Committee just last week, and 5 of those programs will be moving forward and for the consideration of the WIC at their upcoming meeting, which I believe is next week. And so very shortly, Louisiana will have some programs that have been through that first layer of approval. Those programs will then be part of a submission that the governor's office makes to the U.S. Department of Education for final approval, and at that point, then students in Louisiana in those programs that have been approved will be eligible for Workforce Pell. One of the, as you might imagine, there is an important policy structure that is surrounding everything that I've said, making sure that programs are duly eligible and meet all of the various different federal guidelines. One of those guidelines is that the credential that you receive is actually stackable, that it's not, that it isn't just a dead end, but in many ways in spirit, the same spirit as the program that you just approved, it is the beginning of a pathway on to other things. And so the policy structure that is incumbent in all of that is, as you might imagine, joint work between ourselves and Louisiana Works, and so that is the packet that is in your materials for your consideration. And so with that, senior staff certainly recommend the approval of the joint policy with Louisiana Works around Workforce Pell, and specifically those parts of that policy that regard academic credit transfer and credential stackability and portability. Happy to answer any other questions you have around, or at least try to, around Workforce Pell.
Congratulations on making Louisiana one of the first to implement this very important training program. Is there a motion to accept the joint policy with Louisiana Works on Workforce Pell? Motion by Reeves, second by
Smith.
All right. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. The next policy is an update to Academic Affairs Policy 2.22, which focuses on dual enrollment. This update is based on Act 438 of the 2026 regular legislative session. This update would establish a uniform statewide dual enrollment application process and a standard statewide tuition rates for each public post-secondary management board. Dr. Denley.
Thank you so much. And exactly as you say, that's precisely what the policy does. It is, and I think we have, for those of you who have been paying attention to dual enrollment now for several years, these are things that we have really been working on for, well, ever since I've been here in the Board of Regents anyway. So it is terrific to see this progress. On the other side of hopefully your approval today, all of our institutions will then be able to use a uniform and single portal entry, so students at any high school in the state will be able to just go to one place and see all of the different dual enrollment opportunities that they have available and have a very convenient and elegant way in which they can enroll in them. And then also we will establish a framework for pricing. The way this will work is that there will be a price for a dual enrollment course that is an academically based course, and there will be a price for a technically based course, so a so-called CTE course, and that price will be the same at every institution in the state, no matter which high school or which college or university the student is attending. So again, senior staff recommend approval of the update to Academic Affairs 2.22 dual enrollment.
All right, thank you, Dr. Denley. Is there a motion to approve the update to the Academic Affairs Policy 2.22? We have a motion by Mr. Henry and a second by Regent Reeves. Any further discussion or any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, motion will pass. Our next item for our agenda is the establishment of the Academic Affairs 2.26 and an update to Academic Affairs 2.13. Act 486 of the 2026 regular legislative session empowers the Board of Regents to set general policy frameworks regarding accreditation and to identify a list of approved institutional and specialized accreditors.
That's right.
The existing policy on program level accreditation has been updated to include clarifying requirements of these programs. Dr. Denley.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I think we've spoken about this a little before, but this is really building on two important pieces of work that were established, first of all, by an executive order from the governor's office, which established a task force to take a look at accreditation. Back in 2019, the U.S. Department of Education changed its rulemaking around institutional accreditation, saying then that where before institutions had to choose the regional accreditor in their area as being their accreditor, in our region that is SACS COC as it was named then, rather than that being the case, the U.S. Department of Ed said, actually, you can choose from any of our recognized accreditors from an institution. You don't have to choose the one that's there in your region. And so that has been the case for the last 5-6 years. There, up until now, has not been really a pathway for an institution, should they choose to avail themselves of that possibility. And so all of our institutions, sure enough, are accredited by what is now called the Commission. They just recently changed their name. But should they choose to, once you have approved this policy today, this would create a pathway, should they choose to, for an institution to consider accreditation by a different institutional accreditor. It does not force their hand. It doesn't require anybody to change. They are perfectly fine in staying just where they are, but it creates a pathway to, first of all, petitioning their management board to say, could we get permission from you to seek this different accreditation? And then for them to petition the U.S. Department of Education to enter candidacy with that other accreditor. So that is the role of 2.26, our new policy around institutional accreditation. In parallel, we also have for a long time had a policy around program-based accreditation. But again, that has been, it was important to tie these two policies together. As you might imagine, they are in so many ways two sides of the same coin. And so in that new updated version of 2.23, we have updated the language specifically around technical programs in the engineering fields, programs like river parishes, industrial production degrees. Those were not properly addressed in the language as it stood. And then lastly, veterinary medicine was not appropriately addressed in the language that we did. And so again, we worked with LSU VetMed to make sure that that language was appropriately done. So with that, senior staff recommend approval of the establishment of Academic Affairs 2.26 accreditation and the update to Academic Affairs 2.13 program accreditation.
Dr. Denley, how concerned, or if at all, are you about the comparative rigor in what might be opening the floodgate for different accreditation entities?
So I don't have that as a concern. The list of accreditors that are part of the policy, so your policy today, the one you're considering, does not open the door to any possible accreditor willy-nilly. It gives a specific list of eligible accreditors that are recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. There is a rigorous process that new accreditors have to go through to be appropriately recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. And even when they are so recognized, it would take action on your part to then add that new accreditor to the eligible list in your in this policy. So in that sense, you are really recognizing that, as well as the Commission, there are other rigorously recognized U.S. Institutional accreditors, any of the ones that are on your list, any of which are then, in principle, available to our campuses.
Thank you. Regents, you've heard the motion to approve the establishment of Academic Affairs 2.26 for accreditation and the update of Academic Affairs 2.13 for program accreditation. Do I have a motion? Motion by Regent Samia, second
I'll second it.
by
I do
Regent
have a
Aubrey.
question.
Question?
Yes. Dr. Denley, with regard to the Board of Regents approved institutional accreditors, I know that there is discussion about creating another national accrediting agency.
That's right.
In which Louisiana as a state is joined Florida and others. Are they recognized as one of these 6 at this time?
So Currently, they are not recognized by the U.S. Department of Education.
So-
They are working their way through that process, so this is CPHE. And certainly, once CPHE exists, then certainly my expectation would be that you would duly add that to the
We would.
list of eligible accreditors. But they are not currently
Right.
an option for our campuses because they're not a recognized accreditor
By the U.S. Department
by
of
the U.S.
Education.
Department of Education.
But our state, we are working with the team. I think we had a committee or something that's going to be working alongside with them. But when that happens, they'll come back to this board, and then they could be the seventh one.
That's right. That's
Okay, but in
exactly right.
essence, right now, we're with the Commission on Colleges and Universities, for the most part, all our schools. But if, one want to go to one that's with Texas or then they could go that route and be fine.
That's exactly right. All of our schools right now are as you say, accredited by the commission. They've just recently changed their name, so it is not an open door. There is an approval process. So an institution that wants to change would have to petition its management board in a duly way. They can't do it if
Yep.
they can't do it if they're. So you can't be in a bad posture with your accreditor and say, well, we
understand.
don't like you, we'll change something. You have to be in good posture with your accreditor before you're able to change.
But it may help some institutions if one of these regional, one of these other commissions have a better experience in working certainly with some proprietary or specialized schools,
That's right.
medical schools or things like that. It may be a good way for them. So get choice.
That's
I love
right.
choice.
It allows choice. That's exactly
right.
what it does.
No more questions for me.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, any objections? Motion passes. I think our last item is our policy approval in rescinding the uniform policy on the governor's military and veteran-friendly campus. These updates are consistent with provisions of Act 130 of the 2025 regular session and Act 772 of the 2026 regular session as the program is being transferred. Dr. Denley.
Thanks so much. That's right. So as part of Act 772 of this last regular session, our program, the Purple Star Campus program, you'll remember that we established this program and created the gold, silver, and bronze tiers, really to recognize campuses that are going over and above in serving our military students, veteran students, and veteran family students. As part of the action of that bill, that program still is in existence, but rather than the Board of Regents being the administering agency, instead it is Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs. And so we are in constant contact with them. It is absolutely a very amicable takeover, but the reality is we no longer need this policy on our books because we are no longer the administering agency. So with that, senior staff recommend that policy being rescinded from our books.
Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Denley.
Can I make a comment
Sure.
on that? Just for a point of clarity, that's being moved over, but we have been in constant contact with Charlton McGinley. This is something that was a heart project for him. He's excited to have it.
That's right.
And it's going to keep going and thriving
That's
underneath the Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
That's right. Yeah, it's absolutely hand in glove. They're taking everything that we have. Big shout out to Lupe Madrid on my team, who has in so many ways been the lifeblood behind this, and she is on the phone almost daily with the people there in Veterans Affairs. So as you say, it will have a very happy life and in many ways is a terrific fit in that.
Awesome, a great program. Thank you, Chair Cardell. Is there a motion to approve the rescinding of this policy? Motion? Reeves, second. Nachiva? Any other questions? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Is there any other business, Dr. Denley, to come before the committee?
There is not. Thank you.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Reeves and Nachiva? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Denley. Next is the Artificial Intelligence Committee. Regent Shamea, will you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Chair Cordell. I'd like to call the August Artificial Intelligence Committee meeting to order. Dr. Denley, will you call the roll?
I'd be happy to. Regent Shamir,
Here.
Regent Finley, Regent Aubrey,
Here.
Regent May, Regent Sterling, Regent Nashiva. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to item number 3, an update on the Google Career Certificates. Members, this item is for informational purposes only. Dr. Denley is joined by Dr. Elizabeth Hornsby, the Chief Knowledge Officer and co-founder of Veritas Global Edu-Consulting. She is also an adjunct professor at Southern University at New Orleans. Dr. Hornsby, welcome. Please proceed with your presentation.
Yeah, so let me set up this just for 2 seconds, and then certainly happy to hand it over to Dr. Hornsby. So Regents may remember about a year ago, we were in a different room, but sat before you and announced the launching of our work with Google, making available to all of our students, faculty, staff, all across the state, availability of all of Google's professional certificates. I know that some of you have availed yourself of that educational opportunity. It is a fascinating opportunity. And so fast forward now a year, certainly numerous faculty across the state have been working with that, using it to educate themselves around new AI techniques, but also using those materials to incorporate them into their classes. And much of the work in that happening is really due to Dr. Hornsby's work. She has been tireless in helping faculty members know how to work. You can imagine there's a learning curve to know how you do this and what you do. And so she has just been tireless in doing that. So I do want to take a point of privilege to thank her so much for the work she's done for Louisiana. And with that, happy to hand it over to you to tell us all about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, not only in the capacity that Dr. Denley has said, but also in the capacity of a citizen of the state of Louisiana, someone who is a double alum of Southeastern Louisiana University, and someone who spent 18 years on that campus as faculty and saw a daughter graduate from that school during that time. So this is very personal to me. I have watched these meetings on live stream. I texted my parents and I said, I'm gonna be in the big room. So from a girl who started college as a single mother and didn't know what she was gonna do to now being in front of the Board of Regents, that is the power of a Louisiana education. So very happy and excited to be here and share with you a little bit of the work that I do now that I'm not full-time at your campuses, which is talking with colleges, universities, and systems around not just digital credentials, but credentials and why they matter. And really the bigger conversation is around making learning visible. When I think about all of the coursework that I did, all of the experiences I had on my campus, I learned so much. But when I found myself at the point of needing to make a career change and I only had my CV and my transcript to look at, and I go in and type in some of those course names, or I go in and type in some of those job responsibilities, my career opportunities seem really limited. But then when I think about the skills that I possessed in my communication class and in my algebra class, that analytical thinking, that critical thinking, the teamwork and the collaboration that I had to do when I did several projects, the project management, the design skills I learned to make PowerPoints, that opens up a whole world of opportunity that I didn't even see for myself. So what I love about the Nash Google opportunity for our state is that there's an opportunity to make all those skills that live in our courses visible, not only to the learner, but to the student as they go out from the classroom and leverage those skills into the workforce. And so I had the opportunity, Dr. Denley and his team, they allowed me to come, I believe, last December and speak to the Momentum Scholars about my work that I'm doing in this area. And just so you know, I have personally taken every single one of those Google Career Certificates. You can go to my Credly or my LinkedIn, because I said, I'm not gonna advocate for something that I haven't done. So every project, I'm a communication person. I was IT with automation and Python, but you know what I found? I like it. I like analytical thinking. I like being able to problem solve. I like being able to have more tools in my toolbox to communicate my message more effectively. And so those are the types of conversation I've had in the past year. I was at the e-learning task force spring meeting. I gave a keynote there about making learning visible and really encouraging our faculty to say, hey, we're not asking you to do something different. We're just asking you to think more deeply about what you're already doing. And so from there, I was invited again to do another webinar with the Board of Regents towards the end of the semester with some specific skills and strategy, because I am still in the classroom. I currently have 2 public speaking classes right now. So I understand. I'm not talking from a position that is far in distance. I am also in this world. And so what's really exciting to me right now, seeing the sort of progression in the last year with faculty adoption and how the conversations are changing, is that Louisiana, that I know of, is the only state participating in this opportunity. And in my work outside of the work I'm doing with the Board of Regents, I am working with a lot of colleges, a lot of systems, a lot of collectives, but no state is trying to address this challenge comprehensively. So we as the state of Louisiana have a huge opportunity to not only be the best, but be the first, to really address this with the community colleges, with the only HBCU system in the country, right? With the flagship system, with the University of Louisiana system, working together and not just co-curricularly, but creating this learning ecosystem that the skills that the student learns in the class, you know, those data analytics or those project management skills transfer over to the leadership roles they may take, to the work study jobs they may do. And they have badges and visible demonstrations to prove that they have earned these skills. And so very quickly when I talk to faculty, because often people say, well, how do you talk to faculty about this? Because this seems like this could be deeply problematic. And look, I was the faculty that questioned, like, how does this happen? I have 15, 18 weeks of content that I have to teach. How am I going to add something in? But what I realized over doing this work is, again, it's not about adding in something new, it's making visible what you're already doing. A lot of the topics, if you go through that Google catalog, we teach cybersecurity. We teach project management. We teach digital marketing. But beyond that, some of those topics sit in the subtopics. For example, I've had conversations with criminal justice professors who teach internet crimes, which is a lot like cybersecurity. So integrating that cybersecurity certificate, just one course, in an intro to criminal justice class, that student leaves with not only 3 credit hours, but a certificate that is industry recognized that they can leverage immediately, no matter if they're their first or second year. But if you say, Elizabeth, there are no topics that align with what I'm seeing in the Google library, I say, what are you assigning your students to do? Are you asking them to do group projects? Are you asking them to do presentations? Are you asking them to do research? Sounds a whole lot to me like project management, UX design, and content creation and data analytics. If I'm already asking my students to work in a group and do a project, why would I not give them industry recognized skills to do that project better? And again, they leave that 3 credit hour class, whether as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, with a instantly leverageable certificate that they can go into a job and say, I am currently a student at this wonderful institution, I'm working towards this degree, but right now I have this skill, right? The other area I talk to faculty about are the tools. We're all using Office 365 or Google Workspace. A lot of schools are asking their students to use Tableau. Those Google certificates talk about how to use those tools more effectively. So if we're already asking them to use these technological tools, why not give them the skills to use them more efficiently? And that brings me finally to the point of this committee, which is AI. Google has a wonderful career certificate. It's called Google's AI Professional Certificate. And it is basically all the places someone might encounter AI in a professional environment, whether it's for writing or brainstorming or using it for research and data, all the way to vibe coding an app and deploying it. But it's bite-sized enough for a student to see themselves in it. So can you imagine someone who is wanting to better understand how to use AI more efficiently in writing and production, and they learn the tools that they need not only from the class, but also the skills they need to navigate that technology to work more efficiently? Imagine the step up they have from the folks who didn't have that experience, right? And so the thing that I love about the work that I do is when I met Dr. Dinley, the Momentum Scholars, they were working through tilt and small teaching. And that really resonated with me because a lot of times the conversations with faculty, it seems like there has to be a complete redesign. But what I found is that you can actually start really small. You can start with one activity. Is there a topic in that activity that aligns to something in the catalog? Is there something that we're asking the students to do that they need more support in? Is there a tool we're asking them to use? Or is there a trend that we're trying to help them understand how the content relates? Those are small points of integration that are low lift and high impact. And there's two examples on the board. One is an English course with the professor I worked with who did incorporate just the first course of the Foundations of Project Management. And instead of running the class in the typical way where they write and do a draft and revise and do peer review, they actually used a project management life cycle to create, to get feedback, to iterate on that. So now that student's walking away with not only the final product for the class, but a strategy every time they have to have some type of deliverable, right? We are empowering them, and we all know project management, that's a skill you can get a job with, no matter what your degree is. In an algebra class, I worked with the college professor who was teaching algebra, and she did a lot of modeling, but that modeling was often abstract. And what I found when I was going through Google IT and it was talking about some of the concepts, I was like, this sounds a lot like algebra. And so using that algebraic logical thinking to attack a real problem. So starting small with one activity, but eventually building to something bigger, a project that the student leaves with credit hours, a certificate, and something that they can show for it. Really quick example, in my own public speaking class last semester, I incorporated a data analytics certificate. Now, a lot of people look at me and say, how in the world is data analytics in a public speaking class? Well, in public speaking, we require the students to do persuasive speeches. Those persuasive speeches require the students to leverage data to make their argument. I always thought the issue was the students didn't know how to make an argument. That's wrong. The students just didn't know how to use the data. They were showing up with charts and graphs that didn't have anything to do with to support their argument. So I said, this is not a data analytics class, but there's a short data analytics course that's available to you. I'm going to incorporate this into a discussion forum assignment to make sure they understand the data piece. And then my class ran the same, intervention small. But when I had a student come back to me and say, thank you so much, Dr. Hornsby, this class showed me how data can be used to understand trends and solve problems. And what's great about Ariel's case is that Ariel wants to work for the FBI. And she said, Dr. Hornsby, are there any more courses that can help me prepare to work for the FBI? So I was able, in the catalog that was available to her as a student of Southern University at New Orleans, to curate her a catalog of content to help prepare her for the FBI. So information around cybersecurity and data analytics, so she can prepare alongside of getting her degree to get ready. Really quickly, this is an example of what this can look like programmatically. So when a program, as we were hearing, when these programs start to think about integrating a couple courses in one class, a couple courses in another, so in year one of someone in a strategic communication program, they can come out with a UX design certificate. And if they have to stop out, they can leverage that certificate for a job and hopefully bring them back in. And theoretically, if a student completes the strategic communication degree program, they would not only come out with one certificate, but 4 certificates that they would earn while earning their degree. So this alignment can go at the course level, the program level, the ecosystem level. It doesn't just stay in a class. It can be aligned to programs. It can be aligned curricularly and co-curricularly. We're seeing professional development pathways being curated for student workers, for graduate assistants, for people who hold office roles in their clubs, in their organizations. Really, really hitting hard on this idea of lifelong learning. And so as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. I am very excited to be in the state of Louisiana doing this work, and I thank you so much as a board for your support and for continuing to advocate and champion for the learner in all the ways that you do. And I'm just looking forward to this next year seeing even more impact of this work as our learners go out, not only with degrees from our institution, but a set of industry-recognized skills that can impact the world. Thank you so much.
Dr. Hornsby, I want to say really quickly, great presentation. And you had mentioned earlier that you were telling your parents you were in the big room. Please let them know that you not only were in the big room, but you owned the big room. You're like a shot of espresso. I can't imagine somebody not being excited about taking your class. So thanks so much for your work and your enthusiasm behind your work. It's greatly appreciated, and students will certainly benefit from that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before you leave, can I just ask one quick question,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
it's okay? I'm sorry, someone else had a question? Oh, so as you're engaging the faculty and helping connect these dots as a phenomenal navigator and an advocate, are there some sort of lessons learned that you're gleaming that we should think about as we scale participation and lower anxiety about these things? What's the secret sauce?
I definitely think that while the faculty champion model is very popular, finding someone like me who's highly engaged and highly motivated, I think that that is good, but the weight of sustainability and scale cannot rest on a faculty champion that does not have the power to move this beyond their own class. And so I was just recently in Charleston where they're deploying a college liaison model. But that college liaison has some authority in that college, right? They're not just an adjunct professor that may or may not have a contract next semester. They're an associate dean. They're a department chair. They're someone who has some say in the curriculum. And what we did was we looked at those programmatic goals that all departments have. We looked at those accreditation standards that maybe govern that college, and we started aligning some of this work there, so that when they presented it to the faculty, it just didn't seem like another add-on that was disconnected from the initiatives that were already happening. There was some real cohesion to the presentation, and then the faculty member not only saw how it could work in their course, but how it fits in the bigger scheme of the degree progression. So that is definitely, I think, a lesson. For the first year of doing this work, I was just in front of faculty, you know, in every faculty meeting, professional development, and that was great. There was a lot of energy, but then when I came back, not a lot had moved beyond the people who were already doing it. And so this liaison approach where you're partnering someone with passion with someone with some power, that's very, very impactful, and also being able to think through the challenges that already happen as you're moving programmatically or even institutionally. So that's one thing. And then the other thing was really bringing folks to the table that may have these conversations in isolation, but they're going to, if it does scale, everyone's going to have to be brought together. For example, conversations around learner and employer records. That involves a registrar. So the students are receiving these skills. Right now, is it going to a digital wallet? It's not showing up on their transcript. Do we need to think about a way to display these digital certificates that has some infrastructure and structure to it, right? But that's not a faculty member's conversation. That's a registrar conversation, or that's the learning management coordinator, or that's a SIS situation. So again, one of the things in Charleston that was super interesting was I was at the table with the provost and the registrar and the career services person and the academic advising team and the college liaisons, and we basically had the premise, if this thing works, if it does what we want it to do, where do we need to be to make sure that it continues to happen? So beginning with that end in mind, I would definitely say, while it's great to have ad hoc participation, thinking strategically towards the Regents' goals and working towards that as a machine instead of just an innovation in isolation.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate how the connectivity to the industry standard plus-ups are able to really enhance the learning. And of course, Dr. Denley was smiling the whole time you were talking about digital transcripts, because he's got that underway and he's going to be bringing that to this board soon. So I appreciate that very much.
Regent Reeves?
Yes. Well, wonderful presentation. I am a big believer in this. this was offered to the members of Regents, I think in December, at the December meeting. I have completed 14 classes. They're on my LinkedIn. I have probably 4 in progress right now. They're outstanding. And so I would encourage all of you, one of our colleagues with Bessie at the most recent meeting also mentioned he's been doing it. So, I mean, there are some great things. I've done cybersecurity, I've done the project management, I've done the digital marketing, I've done the AI, all of them. There's fantastic. There's one on prompting for AI, but everything that you said is great, and you're right. There are other classes you can take to quickly build up. So, I mean, they're just so beautiful, so wonderful. So I encourage my colleagues to explore it. If you don't know how to access it, I'm sure Dr. Denley would be happy to connect you back to it, because that's who I went to when I couldn't get it to work for me this past summer. So thank you for your work and your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hornsby. Your enthusiasm certainly shines through, as well as your commitment to Louisiana. 2 to 3 years ago, I never thought I'd be chairing an AI committee here, but I'm trying to make it my second language, as I know once my kids hit school age, they're going to make it their first language. So thank you for your work in this area. I really appreciate it.
I would be remiss if I don't say one important thing. My grandmother is a named plaintiff in the court case that desegregated Southeastern, so it is especially meaningful for me to be here today, because this is the dream. I'm going to get emotional. This is the dream she had. And so I want to thank Louisiana for its progress in making opportunity possible for all people, because I stand here as the granddaughter, not great-granddaughter, the granddaughter of someone who had to fight for her education. So again, this is why I'm so passionate, because I know what a little bit of access can do. It can take you from a place you never thought you would be to another place you never thought you would be. So deeply appreciative of your work. Thank you.
Amazing work. I'm sending my kids to you for public speaking, by the way. Is there any other business to come before this committee?
There is no other business.
Sorry to make you follow that up,
No.
Dr. Denley. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Regent Aubrey, seconded by Regent May. Is there any other discussion? Any questions, any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
How long is the audit committee? All right. We're going to go ahead, guys, and take a break for lunch. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock, 1:30, 12, what? Yes, somebody do math for me. Tristan, 12:30. Thank you. We're a little bit concerned about a quorum, so we've got some time. We finished early, and if you don't mind, we're just going to go ahead and do facilities while we have our systems present, and then we don't have to worry about a quorum.
That's me.
Thank you.
Okay, the people for facilities are not here. Oh, they're not?
Oh. Okay, so we're going to convene for lunch. Thank you. To order. Next is the Audit Committee. Regent Judy Williams Brown, please call your committee to order. Or is that right?
I'd like to call the August Audit Committee meeting to order. Ms. Bentley Smith, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am, happy to. Regent Williams Brown.
Here.
Regent Finley. Regent Creed, Regent David, Regent Hickson,
Here.
Regent Meir.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to item 3, the Board of Regents formula, admissions and loss for scholarships audit plans for FY27. Ms. Bentley Smith, please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. So every year, our audit team goes around the state and visits some of our institutions to complete our internal formula, admissions, and scholarship audit. And we come before you to approve that. As it relates to both of these audits and determining which institutions we look at, there is a formal risk assessment that is completed. And then for some of those risk assessments, for some of those institutions, oftentimes we'll do half of the institutions one year and half of the institutions the next year. In this case, there are 2 different sets of audits, as you see here. The first one is the formula and admissions audit plan. We work very closely with the Division of Academic Affairs to see if they have any risk concerns and meet with them prior to developing the risk-based assessment that we process. This year, we're going to be looking at 3 different metrics. The first metric is the adult 25 completers. The second metric is student progression. And the third metric is the 100% online student. As it relates to the scholarship programs, we always review our institutions that participate in our TOPS program and other scholarship programs, and we include both our 2- and 4-year institutions as well as our proprietary institutions as well. And so we bring forth to you today the audit plan for your approval.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve these audit plans for FY27?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Approved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move to item number 4, approval of LomCon facility usage rates. This item includes rates for both the Blue Works facility in Houma and the De La Fise Marine Center in Cocodrie. Ms. Bentley, please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. So in order to ensure that our LomCon's rental rates are appropriately assessed, we complete an annual review and ensure that the rates aren't too high, they aren't too low, what our fellow area institutions are doing, as well as, we look to see what other consortiums across the country are also charging for use of their facilities. In this case, we just completed our annual review, and we come before you to have those approved. Included in this, and I'll go to the next one. Included in these rates, you can see here for both the Marine Center and the Maritime Campus, for those that relate to the those that relate to food and room cost, we do charge the GSA rate, which is a standard rate, implementation rate. But then we also reviewed the cost for rental rates as it concerns our classrooms, exhibit halls, lecture rooms, any type of labs, and we bring that information to you here today for your approval as well.
Thank you. Members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion by Hickson and seconded by Meir. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Is there any other business to come before the committee?
Not at this time.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Meir and seconded by Hickson. Is there any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next is the Facilities and Property Committee. Regent Aubrey, will you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to call the August Facilities and Property Committee meeting to order. Ms. Bentley Smith, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir, happy to. There we go. Sorry. Regent Aubrey?
Here.
Regent Temple? Regent Glazer? Regent May?
Here.
Regent Meir?
Present.
Regent Pryor? Regent Shmia?
Here.
LCTC representative? LSU representative? Southern representative? UL representative?
Here.
All right, let me count. 3, 4, 5. I think we may need one person named to the committee.
He's here.
Okay. Who's here?
Brenda Storm.
Oh, good, okay.
Okay. All right, great. Then we do have a quorum.
All right.
All right, sorry, I'm skipping ahead, Regent Aubrey.
We're good?
Yeah, I don't know
Yep.
where he went. He just stepped out.
I
Madam
think
Chair?
I think to, just as a double, just in case, if he's on the phone call.
Regent Sterling, would you serve while we wait? Okay, thank you.
So let the minutes reflect, we have a appointment of Regent Sterling to our committee.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll now move to item 3, approval of the facilities policy revision. This revision is based on Act 772 of the 2026 regular legislative session and updates to the Act 959 of the 2003 regular legislative session. Ms. Bentley Smith, would you proceed?
Yes, sir, happy to. So in accordance with any changes that occurred during the legislative session, we have to bring we have to update our policies to reflect any of those actions. And the 2 policy revisions that I bring to you today are noted here. The first has to do with the cap on small capital projects that increased to $2 million. And so our policy has thus been updated to reflect that new change. Additionally, it also removed the requirement that it have to come to Board of Regents for approval. That does not mean that we won't be informed of the process. It does require that we receive regular updates of any capital projects that are being done through that statute. Similarly, with our Act 959 projects, there was a removal of Board of Regents approval as well, and so we updated the policy to reflect that change. That's it.
Okay. I'm sure, Mr. Romero, that's the reason why y'all beefing up your staff over there. Smaller projects stay in.
No, Regent Aubrey, my deepest apologies for the opportunities that I think we're availing.
Okay, all right. Thank you, fellow committee members. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the policy revisions as discussed?
I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. May?
May.
May?
Yeah, he's second.
All right. We have a motion by Regent Meir, second by Regent May, that we approve the policy revisions as discussed. Are there any questions or any objections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Other business.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to, Regent Aubrey asked that we invite Chris Herring from the University of Louisiana system to come and provide some additional information regarding the status of the Grambling State University Library. For those of y'all who may or may not be aware, there was a sewage leak that went into the library, and unfortunately the library has been closed for almost 2 months now, and Regent Aubrey just wanted to make sure that we provided you an update of the status of the situation, and so I brought Chris here.
And just to be clear, the library is very personal. When I joined the board, it had already exceeded what was thought to be the construction timeline. And you all know we've had board development, had a lot of meetings with FP&C and others. And many of you have joined along with our chair to cut the ribbon and excited about it. But it's so disheartening that, you know, in the short period of time, and to know that it's been a little bit, 2 months and a week, the library is closed. And, I'm just one of those where we're making policy revisions and looking at adjustment. I believe that academic facilities should have the same level of sense of urgency in terms of repair, restoration, and being open to support the students that we do for athletic and any other auxiliary facilities. And we should have systems in place to respond. But I just felt like, many of you may not have known. I mean, we dealt with all the leaks and we dealt with all the other issues, and it's just another setback. And I wanted to get an update for this board on that project, because we were all so excited for the first digital library.
Well, Chris was happy to come and provide
Thank you,
that
Chris.
information
I
for
told you I would get you back.
Good afternoon, members. I feel like I should call the roll first before saying anything. But yeah, just to provide everybody some background on what happened and where things stand. So towards the end of June, a sewer main backed up on the Grambling State campus, and the new library was unfortunately the closest building to the backup. So the water went in that direction and entered the building. They reported the claim to insurance that day. Remediation was taken care of immediately. And then the process of dealing with, between the institution and Sedgwick, who's the Office of Risk Management's insurance claim provider, that process began, which is still ongoing. So unfortunately, there's a considerable bit of back and forth between the institution and Sedgwick when these things happen. So they've been working on finalizing the scope of work that Sedgwick will actually pay, and then determining how much the institution will be responsible for. On top of that, Sedgwick had one question, I think a final question they submitted at the beginning of this week, and Grambling had to circle back with the contractor, and we'll be getting that information back to Sedgwick this week, hopefully, with the goal of ordering the tile next week. There is a substantial lead time on the tile. It's 4 to 6 weeks. Due to the amount of tile they're purchasing. They're switching from carpet tile to VCT. That's part of the reason with the lead time. So they're looking at, end of September more than likely before the thing is rectified. It'll take about a week to install the new tile upon receipt, but that's where things stand, unfortunately, in terms of the process. But what I can tell you as well is that right now there are spaces available for the students. They have opened up laboratory space in Charles Adams Hall to provide more like a library setting, computer spaces there. They have other laboratories opened up on campus, and the new Student Success Center is going to open next Friday there on campus. So there will be spaces in there for the students as well. To my knowledge, there has not been a great deal of complaints from students, so that's a good thing. And they're doing everything they can to make it as comfortable as possible while they're waiting on the tile to get in and get installed. So that's where we're at as of today. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Hey, Chris, and certainly thank you for that. And, for me, it's just a matter of the sense it just appeared initially that there was a lot of back and forth administratively. And my thoughts is, when we have an emergency project and we can argue over who's going to pay for this and get to the dollar amount. But for student academic success, let's provide them the same level of sense of urgency to get these facilities back open. And that may and may not. I did hear after Elizabeth did some inquiry, the chief operating officer reached out to me and said that they hope next week that they'll create a closure on the first floor, because it literally took, it took in a lot of that backup for the whole first floor, with the exception of a small area. But they're going to figure out a way, and they're going to isolate and allow usage on the second floor.
That is correct.
Hopefully that'll take place starting next week or so.
Yeah, they're waiting on air testing just to make sure that's an option, and then once the air testing is done, that's the hope that they isolate those two areas and utilize the one that's not going to be under construction.
Okay. All right.
Well, certainly while we have him, we have to congratulate Chris on his role as the new Vice President for Facilities at the University of Louisiana System. Chair Romero, you got a great one. We trained him well, we want you to know, and we're very proud of him. So congratulations to you, Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Reed, and thank all of you. Like I said, that y'all have definitely trained me well, and I appreciate everything the Board of Regents has meant to me professionally and personally over the last 20 years. So I can't thank everybody enough for their kindness and effort they put into doing this thing since I've worked here. So thanks again. And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That's good.
Thank you. Is there any other business?
No, sir.
All right. If there is no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion, second. Any objection? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The motion carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next is Research and Sponsored Initiatives Committee. Regent Hickson, will you please call your committee to order?
I will. Thank you, Chair Cordell. And right now we're ahead of schedule, and so we're going to work to keep it that way. And so, yes.
I just need to appoint one.
Yeah. And so I'd like to call the August Research and Sponsored Initiatives Committee to order. Ms. Robinson, I'm going to let you proceed. Call roll. And,
Yes, sir. We're going to have to appoint somebody. So Regent David, would you?
Don't we need to call roll first? And I've already asked Regent David to do that for us.
Oh, good,
as long
okay.
as we're ready.
Gotcha. All right.
Once he calls the roll, then she'll do that.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you.
Regent Hickson?
Here.
Regent Meir? Present. Regent Finley?
Yeah.
Regent Glazer? Regent Pryor? Regent Shamia? Here. We need a member.
We do need a member. And so with that, I would like to ask Regent David if you would agree to be appointed as a member. There is a signing bonus. It's a 300% improvement in pay. Pay zero, but at least we recognize the 300%. So if you'd be willing to do that, so we do have him recognized as a member of our committee. So with a quorum, we're going to move on to item 3, and division of an endowed chair into endowed professorships, and that's at Southeastern Louisiana University, and I'm going to turn it over to you and let you explain.
Yes, sir. Southeastern has requested to divide the Ford Chair in Regional Studies into 4 endowed professorships. This is actually a request that originated with the original non-state donor, so this is a donor-based request. The rationale for the request is to create more opportunities in different disciplines. The Regional Studies Chair has been held by the same holder for several years in the History and Political Science Department at Southeastern. This opportunity will retain the emphasis on regional studies with 1 professorship, as well as create 2 professorships in nursing and an additional professorship in biological sciences, all with a corpus value of $250,000, and the senior team recommends approval.
Okay, so members of the committee, you've heard the recommendation, and is there a motion for approval? Not everybody at one time. We have a motion, Regent David. Who's second? Regent Muir. Good. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote with a sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And without hearing any, the motion passes. And so thank you for that. And I believe that is it. Is there any further discussion, any further
No, there are two
questions?
more items.
Okay, two more items. I'm
Two more
sorry.
items. Yes, sir.
All right, keep going.
Item 4 is appointment of an endowed chairholder without a national search at LSU. This is actually a bit unusual as a request from an institution because it is not a request for an internal appointment. It's actually a request to expedite the awarding of the chair to enable LSU to complete recruitment of a superior senior faculty member. The faculty member is Dr. Christopher Argis. He is highly qualified to hold this chair. He's currently the principal chemical engineer at Argonne National Laboratory, so he brings a wealth of expertise and a lot of amazing connections to some of the best research facilities in the country. LSU is in something of a bidding war for Dr. Argis, so it's important to get this chair in place to make the offer to Dr. Argis as soon as possible. And with that, we recommend approval of Dr. Argis to the Gordon A. and Mary Kane Chair in Chemical Engineering, number 4. This is a $2 million chair, and with that, we recommend approval.
All right, so members, you've heard the recommendation, and so is there a motion for approval? We have Regent David. Is there a second? Regent Shami, and so any further discussion? All vote in favor with a sign with aye. Excuse me.
Aye.
And any opposed? So that motion carries as well. And so thank you, Ms. Robinson. We're going to keep moving.
Yes, so our final item is 2 additions to the endowment program policies for the support fund endowment programs. These 2 policy additions are actually, they are policies that we currently follow. They were adopted by previous boards in previous years, and we follow those adoptions, but they have never been formally introduced into our written policies, and so we receive questions about them frequently, and we always have to remind you of previous board actions, so we are requesting to incorporate these into our formal policies. The first proposal, the first proposed addition is to provide guidance for conversion from one endowment type to another. As you just did with Southeastern, this happens on a regular basis that institutions and donors want to make changes to the posture of an endowment. So we just want to set forth the language that will allow them to do that. We also want to retain the $250,000 minimum corpus when an institution is converting an endowed chair, which is competitive and high level, to an endowed professorship, which is funded at a minimum of $100,000. That dollar amount is extremely low for faculty support. So the board about 10 years ago set in place a policy that $250,000 would be required so you can divide a chair into no more than 4 professorships, and we are going to retain that. The second proposed addition is to disallow the creation of new endowments using expendable earnings on the support fund portion of existing endowments. So you can't leverage an existing professorship that has earned a lot of money that has not been spent by the holder. You can't leverage that to create a new professorship. It would allow an institution to do that with donor portion only if the donor approves. So if the donor's share of the corpus has reached that level and the donor approves creating a new endowment, it would allow that, but it would disallow ever bringing that endowment to the board for additional matching from the state because we have already matched that component of money. So those are the 2 proposed policy additions that we're recommending. We have networked these through both the institutions and the foundations across our network, and we have received no questions, no concerns. With that, we recommend approval.
All right. So, committee members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve both of these? So we have Regent David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Regent Muir, good. And so, is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote with a sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And so that motion carries. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
So is there any other business?
There is no other business.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson. And so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Dr. Shamay and Regent David, thank you so much. And so any further discussion? We are adjourned. Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Dallas and Carrie. Next is Statewide Programs Committee. Regent Reeves, please call your committee to order.
Thank you. I'd like to call the August Statewide Programs Committee meeting to order. Dr. Craig, when you are settled, would you mind calling the roll?
Chair Reeves.
I'm here.
Regent Pryor, Regent Glazer, Regent May.
Here.
Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Nachava. We have a quorum.
Very good. The first item is the consent agenda. Dr. Craig, you can proceed.
Yes, so for the statewide program committee, we actually have 5 items on the consent agenda today. For the first item you'll see here is for the MJ Foster Promise Program. This is rulemaking to implement Act 642 of the 2026 regular session. Basically, within this act, it pauses the decrease in the age of eligibility and it pauses at 21, the age of 21 for 2 years to give us an opportunity to do some research and allow the additional funding from the governor to come in and hopefully allow us to fund the MJ Foster Promise Program for a full calendar year. This age eligibility is going to be paused for 2 years while we do this study, and then we will be presenting a report to the legislature for a determination about whether or not the age should remain at 21, or at that point the decision will be made to reduce the age down to 18. So this is the rulemaking on this particular act. Second, we have our TOPS rulemaking implementing Acts 355, 695, and 794. So Act 794 provides for the initial and continuing eligibility of TOPS Tech, which is allowing now the addition of successfully completing 9 hours of early college credit as a possible third option for eligibility. So now students to become eligible for TOPS Tech can become eligible with 2 out of the 3, either the core, the core and the core GPA, an ACT score, or successfully completing 9 credit hours of early college credit. So we're very excited about that. In addition, they've made TOPS Tech is allowable for part-time students to use TOPS Tech for part-time. Also very excited about that. The next item or the next rulemaking is Act 695, which is changing the core requirement to allow for interchangeable math requirements. Our students, many of them were on 2 different tracks of mathematics, either algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and then some sort of advanced math, and other students were on an integrated math 1, 2, 3, and 4. These courses have become interchangeable, and now it will be allowable for them to be interchangeable. This was all approved by the department and Bessie, and to make this eligible for TOPS, this became a legislative change. This is the rulemaking for that. And then the last one is Act 355, which allows any veteran that has been honorably discharged from a Louisiana service institution in Louisiana and has been in Louisiana for a year. They are now able to go to a Louisiana institutions on TOPS Tech. If they apply within 1 year of discharge, they are able to go tuition-free and use TOPS Tech. And so we're very excited about that. Third, we have, we need the approval, basically an exception to the deadline to submit documentation to support an application for a student that is returning from an out-of-state institution. We call it our RUSE exception. This is an exception for the deadline. And then we have approval of home study exceptions. And finally, our regular TOPS exceptions requests that our students request each month. All of these have gone before the LOSFA Advisory Board, and they recommend approval of the consent agenda items.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Craig, for taking us through all of that. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda items? We have a movement. Do we have a second? Second. Dr. Sterling. Is there any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Very good. Next up is our statewide program spotlight. This month we'll hear from several with us today. We'll hear about the Hunger-Free Campus program, which is located in all 30 of our public post-secondary institutions as well as our 4 private institutions. And joining us today with Dr. Craig is Allison Vicknair, Assistant Commissioner for Student Success and Strategic Initiatives, and Dr. Lupe LaMadrid, right?
Yes.
Senior Policy Analyst for Regents. So welcome all, and please proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, so you took away my thunder, and I don't need to introduce them anymore. We are, the 3 of us, this is a passion project for us, and we are thrilled to be here today to talk to you about the Hunger-Free Campus program. And so, Dr. LaMadrid, please take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us, and I'm just delighted to be here. As Susanna said, this is a passion project. This is close to my heart, and I'd like to tell you a story that began in 2022 with Rep. Freiberg. She found out about the Hunger-Free Campus National Advocacy Group, and what they do is they go to the different states, and they had this Hunger-Free program. Representative Freiberg loved the Hunger-Free program, and she brought it back to Louisiana. And so it was fantastic because she sponsored legislation that created this program. And so it basically, you have our institutions have to receive their designation. They have to meet prescribed criteria to meet the Hunger-Free designation, and charge the Board of Regents with developing a policy, developing an application, and also developing an award for the campuses that receive it. So we will tell you about all of those things. So the one takeaway that I would love to leave you with is that students need to have reliable food services and food resources so that they can focus on what they need to do, focus on persistence, focus on completion, and which brings them to success in Louisiana. So this is at the heart of the Hunger-Free Campus program. Okay, so again, I'm so delighted. So we have 100% participation in the state of Louisiana with our Hunger-Free designation program. All of our public post-secondary institutions signed on, and we also have 4 private institutions that have signed on to this program. Our private institutions are Tulane, Loyola, FranU, and Centenary. And we're hoping to expand that. I just had a conversation with Dr. Turner, and I'm hoping that we are able to expand that to even more of the private institutions in the state of Louisiana. And another thing that I wanted to point out was, before we started this program, it's difficult for students in certain regions of the state to know what types of resources they have and what's available to them. So the Hunger-Free program has really solidified our knowledge and all of their knowledge on what are the resources that are necessary, what are options that are necessary for the students. Because just because you go to a smaller institution doesn't mean that you have less access to resources that will help you get through your university years. So if you see there, we have a map that shows you the geographic placement of all of our hunger-free campuses. There are a total of 34 institutions, the public and the private. And Justin, I'm a big girl I love extra notes, but I do want to say that this was something that was universally adapted by all of our institutions. They have been lovely, and it's a deep, deep pleasure and a wonderful opportunity to work with them as they build out these programs. So the next slide.
Okay.
So let's come to where we are now. So we have, this year in 2026, we had $110,000 of funding that was used for a grant award. So with the legislation that happened in 2022, we were charged with developing an award, a competitive award, where the institutions apply to the Board of Regents and let us know what are they going to do with this funding? What are their biggest needs? How is it going to change the student's life? So this year we had $110,000 to award. We had 21 applicants, and all 21 institutions received an award. It was not handed out equally, so they were of varying amounts, and all 21 received funding. So the impact that this has on our state, on these pantries, on these efforts on campus is tremendous. And we have really, really, just in these 4 years, the program has expanded efforts across Louisiana tremendously.
And I think one of the biggest pieces that Dr. Lama-Druid hasn't said is as we continue to work to remove barriers to student success, we found that food insecurity is one of those barriers, and we want to strengthen food security for all Louisiana students. And so what you see here is these are where the awards that were given in 26. I'll just briefly let you see it was across the state. But what we're here to share with you the most, and we have so much excitement about, is after several years of the first year, Regents put up 48,000, and the second year was 50, and last year was 110,000. The legislature has taken notice of the good use, the good stewards of the funding that we have put forward, and has dedicated $1 million in funding for the 27 calendar year, because what the small amount of funding made possible for our hunger-free campuses was cold storage, pantry capacity, more food options for our students on campus, but it also provided an avenue for us to create a network of these student affairs and student success coordinators across all the campuses to come together and talk about best practices for how we can reduce the food insecurity needs across the state. So what are we going to do? So first of all, we want to publicly thank Representative Jack McFarland and Representative Barbara Freiberg for ensuring that these dollars made it into the budget, and talk to you a little bit about how this is going to be used. Then the first $500,000 is going to go out the door as fast as we can possibly get it to every public institution in the state. We are going to divide it equally. It will be a shot in the arm for hopefully, as we continue to talk with the institutions, that it will be for either non-consumable items, for instance, either refrigeration, freezing, so it allows them to keep fresh items longer, or what we're finding is really a new positive way on campus are these locker systems where students are given a code, they walk up to a locker system, pull a backpack out, and they have food for several days that they can take. And it is simply reduced the stigma of having to go to a food pantry, and we love this locker system. So initially we are going to an equal amount to every public institution in the state. 500,000. The remaining 500,000 is going to be the competitive grant that the law requires us to do, and every institution is going to be allowed to compete for these dollars, including the private institutions, and we are looking for innovative projects that are really going to erase food insecurity on your campus. Long-term projects that really focus on creating an infrastructure that's going to last much longer than just one semester or 1 year. So very, very excited about what this next academic year is going to hold in regards to our Hunger-Free Campus Network. One of the things that we have done and worked very hard on, and really, to be honest, not me in conjunction with Dr. Labadrid and Ms. Bicknair, is that Allison and Lupe have really created a strong network of committed partners, not only on the institution's campuses, but they've moved collaboration beyond the campus. And at each institution, they've begun to create partnerships with grocers in the local area, and not just the food banks, but if there's not a local food bank, grocers in the area or restaurants and churches who can help support these campuses, as well as food banks and pantries. So again, these partnerships create ongoing donations that help supplement the food on the campus.
Okay, and so thank you, Dr. Craig.
You're welcome.
So now I'm going to talk about the next 4 slides are the reality of what this work has done. I know that, you see here, a wide variety of pantries. You'll see some that are very robustly stocked. You have some that have just top-of-the-line refrigeration and freezing to provide ample choices for the students to select. And then you have also some that are just on the smaller end that just have more dry foods for the students to come in. One thing of note is you'll notice right away it's driven by the students. It's driven by the faculty and the staff and the community at those institutions, and that is so beautiful. You might ask, so how do these students get supplies? What are some of the ways? So they, like as Dr. Craig mentioned, they have collaborations with grocery stores. I think Rouse's and Kroger's has set up grants where they get food items from there. They have one campus had a very public contest during the college football series that collected food pantry items for the food pantry and monies. Also to communities and churches, work very closely with the students. So this funding, so what we've done thus far, and then what we will do is we're investing in capacity. So the resources that make a difference to the students, some of them are very, very small, the pantries that institutions have. Some of the smaller rural institutions are not as robust as the other larger ones. So the examples of what we're talking about is wanting to take things to the second level with equipment, infrastructure, equipment, refrigeration, storage, pantry shelving, and then student essentials, some of which are not just food items, some of which are hygiene and other more what I call living day-to-day items that are needed. Partnerships in action. This is just a perfect example of the variety of activities that the campus does to promote this. You have the director of the pantry in one, then you have the students, you have organizations that are all collaborating to make a difference and to really, really provide opportunities for students to be able to have what they need so that they can complete their degree. That's so important. And then finally, I said this at the beginning, and the students are at the center of everything we do. And that's one thing, Dr. Reed and Dr. Craig, have provide such wonderful models for us, because that is, the students are at the center of everything, and making sure that they have what they need to eat, because students who are hungry cannot perform on academic tests. Students who are hungry don't feel well and can't complete their educations. So these pantries just make all the difference for them. So I think that this last slide, that young man, says it all here. It's every pantry shelf, every partnership, and every investment helps students persist, graduate, and succeed. And so now I'd like to toss it over to my colleague, Ms. McNair.
And looking forward and what's on the horizon for our Hunger Free Campus program this year, Lupe and I are hard at work right now in working on the request for application for the competitive awards that will be released later on this semester. And we are super excited to continue our Campus Spotlight series. Last year we hosted several webinars where we brought together the representatives from the campuses who hadn't really had the opportunity to even meet one another or even know what was going on amongst each other's campuses. So we created a webinar series where we have 2 campuses that presented at each one of the webinars, and they were able to present on what are they doing on their campuses, what do their programs look like, how is their infrastructure, what are their best practices, lessons learned, events that are going on the campuses, and they really loved it. They really appreciated the time, even though it was just a 1-hour webinar. They really appreciated to having us carve out that space for them, organize it, getting them together, and being able to share out. And then they would just open it up for questions for them, and they would just chit-chat and really learn from one another. So we are going to be continuing that this fall. We already have volunteers. Campuses are signing up to present, so we're going to host several this fall as well as in the spring. And then for the very first time, we are super excited to be hosting our first in-person convening here at the Claiborne Building later at the end of the spring. And again, we'll be bringing together all of the campuses and all the representatives and students as well to bring them all together in one place and to really share their lessons learned and experiences, as well as we're going to bring in regional partners and some national experts in the field to really help guide the work and where they can take it to the next level. So you can see that with our goal. Part of this goal is not only sustaining the program financially, but really helping to build a stronger statewide community of practice for the folks on the Hunger Free campuses. We wanted to close with a very exciting little happy that we have for you guys. We were super excited, and a lot of hard work from Dr. Lamadrid for the 2024 Hunger Free Campus Program Report. Received national recognition among the National Conference of State Legislators, and we received the Notable Document Award for
Education
policy. And there on the spotlight is our champion, Representative Barbara Freiberg, whose legislation is the ones who launched this work. We wouldn't be here without her. She's where it all got started, and she was able to be at the conference and received the award on our behalf. So we were super excited about that. So you can see that we are making very big strides in a very short period of time in Louisiana. When we talk to our national partners, I mean, they're like, wow, you've got this $1 million coming. What are you going to do with it? They're very excited. So incredibly excited to see how short we've come and where we're going to go moving forward.
And they won't tell you this, but I will, and because I'm incredibly proud of the work that the 2 of them are doing to champion this work for the Regents. But the National Strikeout Hunger organization will be in New Orleans this year, and they've already asked Dr. Lamadrid and Ms. McNair to be there to actually highlight the work that we're doing here in Louisiana. So we're very proud about that. Thank you both. Great job.
Well, thank you, Dr. Craig, Dr. Lamadrid, and Ms. McNair for your hard work and the program, the Hunger Free program across campuses. So, are there any questions for them? Okay. Hearing none, is there any other business?
There is not.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? I have one. Do I have a second? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Well done, guys. Thanks so much. Had a couple of feel-goods today. That's awesome. Our final committee is Planning, Research, and Performance. Regent Glazier is not here.
Regent Williams Brown.
Regent Williams Brown,
Is
will you
the vice chair.
please call the committee to order? Thank you, Susanna.
You're welcome.
I'd like to call the August Planning, Research, and Performance Committee meeting to order. Dr. Craig, will you call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Chair Glazer, Vice Chair Williams Brown.
Here.
Regent David. Regent Hickson. Regent Meir.
Present.
Regent Reeves. Regent Nachiva. Ma'am, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on the consent agenda. Dr. Craig, will you please proceed?
Yes, so we only have a consent agenda item. We have two items. Our first item on the consent agenda, we have 8 academic license renewal applications. You'll see them on the board. Many of them are very common to you, have been around for many years, serving the students of Louisiana. The next item on the consent agenda is our Advisory Commission on Proprietary Schools. We have one initial application, Ivy League Medical Training in Hammond. And then we have 29 proprietary license renewal applications that you will see here on the screen. All of these have gone through the Proprietary Schools Advisory Commission, and they have recommended approval. Senior staff recommend approval of all of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Regent Reeves, seconded by Regent Hickson. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Is there any other business to come before the committee?
No, ma'am.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Regent Hickson, second. Regent Reeves. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this rolls us right on into our August board meeting. I'd like to call the August Board of Regents meeting to order. Members, please remember that you're being live streamed, so make sure that you turn on your microphones and also silence your phones. Ms. Skyke, would you please call the roll?
Regent Aubrey.
Here.
Regent Cordell.
Here.
Regent Creed. Regent David.
Here.
Regent Finley. Regent Glazer. Regent Hickson.
Here.
Regent May.
Here.
Regent Meir.
Present.
Regent Nachiva.
Here.
Regent Pryor. Regent Reeves.
Here.
Regent Shamia.
Here.
Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Temple. Regent Williams Brown.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Emily. Next up is public comment. Are there any public comments?
There are none.
Hearing none, I'll ask for any additional comments to be added in under other business. Members, you've received a copy of the minutes from June 10th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So move. A second.
All right. We had a tie here between Regent Aubrey and Dallas Hickson. Are there any further discussions, questions, or objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we will vote on the committee reports and recommendations together. However, if any board member wishes to take up any of the committee reports separately, please let me know and we can consider those individually. Is there anyone who wishes to take up any of the committee reports separately? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve all of the committee recommendations from today's committee meeting in globo?
So moved.
All right, Regent Sterling and May. Is there any further discussion, questions, or objections? All right, hearing none, the motion passes. Next on today in our agenda is the monthly Momentum Moment. Today we are joined by the new president for Louisiana's Community and Technical Colleges, Richard Nelson. Thanks so much for coming today. During the 2025-26 school year, the LCTC awarded 52,912 credentials to more than 41,000 completers, with nearly 20,000 graduates entering high-demand occupations. Earlier this month, President Nelson announced that his 5-point plan to expand access to the 12 LCTC institutions across Louisiana. President Nelson, welcome. So glad to have you here today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess I look more young and naive in that picture. That's why.
Don't 12, maybe 13.
At least not get carded when I. So thank you. It's great to be here. Richard Nelson, I guess, held a variety of different roles that have been successful or not. But I'm happy to be here. I think I have the best job in the state. I told somebody the other day, last week, a legislator, they said, well, what do you think you're going to do next? Which is not an unfair question given how often I change jobs. But honestly, I don't think right now I would change jobs with anybody in the world, regardless. Because I think that this is one of the most exciting times in the world, or exciting times in history to be in Louisiana. And I think, honestly, this challenge of how do you adopt the workforce, especially in the state of Louisiana, but just in the world in general, how you do that is going to be probably the challenge of our generation, I would say. And so there's nowhere else I'd rather be. This is one of the best opportunities I've ever had, and happy to be here. I don't know if I can still say I'm new to the job. I guess 7 months in, I can still take credit for the things that are going right and blame the last guy for things that went wrong, so maybe it's okay. But we did just launch this. We have to turn the microphone on. All right, no worries. We did last week launch, or a couple weeks ago, we launched this vision document that you have in front of you. It kind of outlines some of the steps. So I did not have a background in higher education, as some of you might know, and so it was a somewhat of a learning experience to figure out what the problems are. At the same time, I would say I do have a background in solving complex problems, which is what I think we have. Mm-hmm. And so I spent the first 6 months or so, I went to every college. I think in the first 2 weeks, I went to every college. I talked to all the leadership teams, and I talked to stakeholders across the state, I think including some of y'all, about, hey, what are we doing? What's working? What's not working? How do we do it? How do we make, I think, the system work better for everybody? I'll tell you, it's probably one of the most complex problems that exists, is really when you're taking people in a state like Louisiana who may have little to no skills, maybe didn't graduate from high school, and elevating them to the position of filling these jobs. So I don't think it's lost on anyone on this committee for sure that there is substantial opportunity in this state that has never existed before I think since LaSalle floated down the river is how I like to phrase it. And of course that just got 1,000 times worse yesterday. So I walked into the SpaceX presentation yesterday, and they came up to me and they said, "Hey, are you the guy from the technical colleges?" And they said, "We need to hire every electrician and every welder that you can possibly imagine, because this is how to scale this project, right? $100 billion." And I was like, "Well, that's fantastic. You're like the third person to tell me that this week." Because if you go to Shreveport, then they say, well, guess what? You have Amazon coming. If you go to central Louisiana, they have those under Energy, obviously, is building it across the state of Louisiana. Meta's already up in the north. We're partnering with Hyundai in Donaldsonville. And then, of course, you have, whatever it is, $50 billion of LNG projects that are being built along the coast. So I would say this is an unprecedented time. I don't think I'm using that term lightly, but it's literally probably within every 2 weeks, I have 2 or 3 people telling me everyone I graduate they can hire. And so you just can't do things the same way if you're going to meet that level of challenges. And I think that that's been somewhat of the layout of this vision document, is saying not just like how can we do a few things a little better. It's really, if we're trying to be the absolute best in class so that the rest of the world looks at us, I would say, I would say most things in government, if you've been around, they always say, well, let's look at how Singapore does it, because Singapore's got it figured out. Whatever it is, Singapore does it better than everybody else in the world. But of course, Singapore is this tiny little city-state with pretty much ultimate authority that they can do whatever they want, but they usually make pretty good decisions. So I want Louisiana to kind of be the Singapore, at least from the efficiency model of how do you solve problems effectively, and how do you do it the best way possible so that everybody else tries to copy you. And I think that we can really do that here as far as the community and technical colleges. We have a lot of advantages. I think the system works pretty well. I think especially given the resources we had and the challenges we were facing a couple years ago, we operate pretty well. All of our institutions are solvent. We're not coming begging for money. We're begging for money because we want to train more people. That's the only thing we're trying to do. But it is, I think, going to force us, given the scope of the challenges that, like I said, just got, 10,000 jobs worse yesterday. That's a good problem to have, but we do have to reinvent how we, I think, address some of this, because we're just, we went from playing high school ball to playing in the Super Bowl essentially in 2 years. And so it's just a different set of challenges. And so if you go through this, this proposal, there's basically 5 different categories that I would say my savvier marketing people came up with, since they are very positive sounding categories like expanding, connecting, aligning, partnering, and delivering. But we kind of broke out, I would say, under those broader categories, some things to, how do we increase the pool of students for our institutions? Do we go into high schools? Do we expand it into our adult education population that didn't actually graduate from high school? How do we get them those high-value credentials? We are in the process of establishing a charter school to try and leverage that ability to bring more people into the fold earlier, which I think is a pretty substantial problem. How do we use our expanded financial aid opportunities, including Workforce Pell, TOPS Tech, MJ Foster? How do we leverage that to get more people in the door? On the connecting side, we're trying to make our application process easier. These are all things that are kind of for our existing students. How do we make it easier for them? Websites that have clear offerings, orientation and counseling for every student, childcare and transportation. I think if you go to any one of our institutions, they'll point out that childcare and transportation, after the actual cost, are the 2 biggest challenges. Those aren't really community college challenges. Those are Louisiana challenges, right? And I raised that too, because if somebody can't get to the college, they also can't get to their job. Like, that's just the reality. And so to the extent, though, that we can offload some of that burden on people and let them complete their courses because we help them with them, we need to do that. And also student loans. We do have we do offer student loans at 10 out of the 12 institutions, but my view and my goal would be that nobody ever has to take out a loan. That's not the business that we should be in. I think we should be able to support it as a state, or whether it's through scholarships, whatever we need to do. I don't want any student at LCTCS to ever have to take out a loan. So we're working toward that goal, and hopefully we can get there. On the next point, I think there's another one in between, sorry. On aligning, we want to make sure the programs that we're offering align with what the state actually needs. I would say we do a pretty good job of that in the community colleges, because we have an active conversation with the employers. They say, hey, we need this amount of people. For example, when Meta came into North Louisiana and they said, hey, we need a program to train people to go work in the data centers or help build them, we said, we're going to stand this up. And now we graduate like 25 people a month from those programs in Delta, and every single one of them gets a job offer before they walk out the door. And so in 4 weeks, in a 4-week course, they come out and some of them make $80,000 a year. I mean, I would say most of the people that graduate from 4-year institutions in our state don't walk out making $80,000 a year. So that's the value added that we can provide, and I think that nimbleness and responsiveness is what you need, especially when you look down the future and what's coming in the state. You need to provide what the employers need, not what we thought we needed 5 years ago, which is, I think, sometimes a problem with higher education. I think we need to make our pathways, I think, clear and transparent. That's another issue. If you have, I would say, kind of the Piccadilly approach, where you're trying to offer a little bit of everything to everybody, I'd rather be raising canes. That guy's a lot richer. Let's offer some things that are really important that we know are going to be effective and do it really well. And so that's one of the ways we're looking at, is how do we make these very established pathways so people know what to do and where to go. There's also, we have an issue of, you can sit in a class, 2 people sitting in a class, one of them came through the workforce pipeline and one of them is coming through the credit pipeline. One gets college credit, one doesn't, even though they're sitting through the same class. That doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the students, so we need to make sure that that barrier is gone, as well as integrating AI into the curriculum. I know that there's some hesitation. Maybe it's going to ruin the world, I don't know. I think Elon Musk, in his interview with The Economist the other day, said there's about a 10 to 20% chance it ruins the world, it destroys humanity, and there's an 80% chance it solves all of our problems. So, I mean, that may be where we are, but at the end of the day, I think especially for our graduates, they need to be able to use it, they need to have it integrated, because that's the real world. And so integrating that in the curriculum will make them successful. On the next part, and the next point, partnering, we have a pretty extensive partnership. I think that we try not to do everything in a vacuum. I mean, I think many of you, we talk all the time, or your relative institutions, we talk all the time. We want to make sure that every person or every student that goes to our college is able to get a job. We're not in the business of handing out a piece of paper. We're in the business of handing out careers. And so to the extent that we are lockstep with what the employers and the industry needs in the state, that's how we're successful. I would say it's not perfect, for sure. I would like to know the absolute best way of doing that. There's better ways, I'm sure. But we're working and trying to figure that out, because that's really the end goal for all of this, is that somebody gets a job. All the other metrics, if everybody from one of our institutions is getting a higher paying job, every other number is kind of irrelevant. So that's the way I look at it. Another thing we're looking at is expanding opportunities in correctional facilities. Obviously, we have the highest incarceration rate in the country or in the world. It's not a great distinction. Right now, they get very little to any training. Like there's 13,000 that come out of DOC custody every year, and they almost have nothing of value. And it's our fault. I mean, us as maybe as the state of Louisiana, of not solving that problem. But at the same time, if we're looking at these huge demands of the workforce, you can't ignore 13,000 able-bodied people coming out of facilities where they pretty much had all the time in the world to become experts at whatever they were doing. So I think expanding those training opportunities would be important. I want to make sure that there's a continuation, so that if you get credit for any of our courses, that transfers on to a 4-year degree if you want to. And I think we as a system too can also do a better job of raising money. We have relatively not focused on that. I think as a system, we let the colleges, kind of try and do it themselves. But at the same time, there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of people that would see that statewide picture, and I think be more supportive of us as a system where we can allocate those resources to students, especially across the system. So I think that's something that we can do better. So that's another one of those issues. At the end of the day, we do have some pretty collective challenges, so that using that system and leveraging it is a good I think thing to do. And the last point is delivering. That's kind of just improving the efficiencies in how the system currently operates. We have 12 different colleges. They kind of operate independently, so they don't, there is some centralization of some of the things, like our technology platform. We have a centralized ERP that, kind of governs the students and everything else. But there's a lot of things where we do it 13 different ways instead of one. And that means that it's 13 times as expensive. Instead of, buying a technology package, it might cost twice as much to do it for 2 schools as it does, or do it for everybody as it would if you did it for 13 individually. But it's a lot cheaper to use those economies of scale. We don't do that very well, that we're gonna work on. Some of our technology platforms, including Banner, which is our ERP, we got to look at modernizing that because we don't have the functionality we need. We have the new Act 35 program, which lets us expand facilities. We're focusing that on our workforce solutions. We're doing that across the state. We just did the first round of $120 million worth of financing for that. Utilizing that and doing, I think, a real strategic view of all of our facilities and making sure they align with, especially what the future is. That's going to be critical. And finally, I think the last point in all this is that everything costs money. And I try to emphasize that to our friends in the legislature and my friend the governor. And I think they recognize that. I mean, the truth is, you cannot have $300 billion of capital expenditures in the state of Louisiana in the last, 20 months, and expect that the system that you built and funded in 2017 is going to address the needs of that. Because it's not just the Metas, and it's not just the SpaceXs. You have every single person that's going to come here. Every one of them is going to live in a house. Every one of them is going to need health care. Every one of them is going to create all the demands of society, and this is going to be a significant demand that's going to come up across the board. And so it is going to take some sustained effort from the state to, I think, look at that a different way. And I would say, look, nobody in the country really does it that well. So I think we're not in a bad spot. Unfortunately, we're just kind of on the tip of the spear on this, just because of the level of investment that we're seeing. We can't just wait and see what everybody else does, which maybe that was our plan for a while. But we can't wait and see what everybody else does, is because these problems are here now. If we wait a year to figure out what to do, or we wait 2 years to figure out what to do, and another year or 2 to train people, we're not going to be in the position we can't do it. So, I would say we are in the Super Bowl whether we like it or not, and we have to play that way if we want to win. At the same time, the good news is that 30 teams don't even get to play in the Super Bowl. So at least we have the opportunity to win. I think, all of us have probably spent our lives here, wondering why Louisiana can't ever be better than 50 or better than whatever. And I mean, we're not even in that category anymore. And I think this workforce challenge and addressing those needs is really, I think, the final piece of this puzzle, that if we can nail this, if we can land this plane, the future of this state is unlimited. I mean, I guess literally SpaceX says it's absolutely unlimited. You can go wherever you want, right? But it's a set of problems that I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago I would have never have imagined. I think nobody in the state would have imagined that we would be in this position now. But I am thankful to be here. I have a fabulous team who knows a whole lot more than I do, who I can steal their ideas and use them as my own, so it works out well. But we're all working every day to make this better. You know, I have 12 chancellors that will work very hard across the state. We all have similar challenges. We all work together, and I think it's a great opportunity. And I don't know if we do questions or whatever, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I would just say we've all dreamed that we would get to a point in our state where we would have this type of investment. And like you said, the dream is here. I can tell from just hearing you and visiting with you that you're enthusiastic, and I'm excited. I mean, I'm really excited to have the opportunity, like you said, to be in the Super Bowl. Most teams don't even get a chance to be here. And so what a challenge, but also what an opportunity.
I can say on my recent 24 parish tour that I've been on, some of the things that they talk about in all the little communities are, you know, how do we get jobs? How do we keep our kids here? And how do we take advantage of the opportunities? And the things that you're doing with LCTCS is so amazing. I mean, you're talking about life-changing work. 49% of our citizens in this state only have a high school degree or less. So there's so much opportunity out there to capture that adult learner, the kid that maybe dropped out of school, and plus our fresh grads. So this is exciting times indeed. We have great opportunity in our state, and we're so happy to have you at the helm and being passionate and excited about doing this work. Have no doubt that you're going to be wildly successful, and Louisiana will be successful as well.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the one thing I would say too is that, you know, people ask me when I, you know, go around the state, you know, you have resistance to some of these projects, and they, you know, people say, hey, look, dude, I was in Abbeville yesterday, and they were asking me, you know, well, what do you think about this? This is going to be crazy. I mean, can we still go fishing? But I'll tell you, I think the way that you get people on board with this is that you either get them a job there or their kids a job there, and then they're all going to be on board with it, because the same people that may be resistant to something new probably support something that's maybe a lot worse for the, you know, a lot worse for the area, a lot worse for the environment, but it's fine because it's been there forever, and their, you know, their brother-in-law works there or their son works there, so it's fine. And I think once you start seeing that employment actually go to the people that are there, that's when it's, you know, changes their lives, and they're going to get on board with it.
Hey, Mr. President, you know, I've seen you.
You're going to need some more cell towers in Abbeville. I'm just going to point that out to you.
Please don't bring, you know, I've already talked to them.
I would have texted you yesterday about it, but it didn't go through.
No, exactly.
That was good. I love
we
that.
Knew that.
I'm just kidding.
We had a geo-fence for the space.
That's right.
You know, I've seen you move from the legislature over to revenue and also now into this particular role, and we've had some very frank and candid conversations about the role of higher education, you know, and our mission at the Regents, our role, scope, and mission, supporting the two-year colleges and things of that nature. And I've pointed out to my peers, even as I look at the outcome of the 25 legislative session to the 26 legislative session, the visibility and the support for two-year campuses versus this year, and things certainly moved in a different way. We're here to talk about the momentum movement. You know that goal. However, with all of the activity, and I agree with you that we are in incredible times of opportunity, the role that the LCTCS system and the member institutions play is getting to 2030 going to be too late. You know, how do we align? I mean, we're talking about momentum. We may have to revisit our momentum now, or go back, and in particular, knowing that energy. I mean, Venture Global and others, Woodstock, the different groups, advanced manufacturing, and healthcare, particularly those three right now, unbelievable, unprecedented time, and we've exceeded now over $200 billion announced development. So how do you see, at this point, you're a problem solver, that's what you said, how do you see the role in terms of the alignment for our our momentum, you know, how do we pivot if we need to and accelerate that?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, let me say AT&T is a great partner, and I was just pointing. I appreciate. I know you guys.
I didn't take it, you know.
Sit on the board. You sit on our foundation board, and we appreciate all your help. And we have had a lot of conversations about this. But I think you're absolutely right. 2030, we're going to be run over by the train by 2030. So it doesn't. I mean, it's going to be. You know, that'll be the prologue by then. This you have to do much sooner than that, and I think it has to be much more targeted to the things that we need. And you know, honestly, I would say a reimagining, a refocusing for our community technical colleges. I think, you know, for a long time, obviously we've talked about this, and you read this all the time. So we said everybody needs to go to four-year university. That's what we need to do, four-year university. 70% of the kids in high school right now are being trained in a four-year university prep curriculum, and so even though you know most of them will not graduate with a four-year degree, even though you know the economy basically needs 70% the other direction of a associate's degree or below. And so I think you have to absolutely reimagine it. I would say a big challenge in that is funding, because most of the way that higher education is set up, including our community technical colleges, it's set up that way because that's how the federal funding flows, and honestly that's how state funding has set up. You know, you have things like TOPS that create these big incentives for people to either go to four-year university or they don't give the same support to two-year, and we tried to address that some with our changes to TOPS Tech. But at the end of the day, you know, unfortunately, the programs that are most in need and highest demand, like nursing and welding and electrical and HVAC and, you know, all these things that everybody says we can't get enough of, we can't get enough of, we can't get enough of, are very expensive to do, way more expensive than you would say a general ed degree or general ed course. And the economics of them aren't aligned with what the institution, you know, like what the institutions are trying to provide. They're trying to remain solvent, they're trying to be competitive. And so part of this is we're trying to expand these very high cost, but incredibly high demand programs. And I think that was not the focus for a long time. It was, how can we prepare people with a two-year degree that will then allow them to transfer to a four-year degree? Now we're saying, well, the four-year degree may not be really worth it that much. Well, neither that much then it would be the two-year degree, the transfer to that. There's still a role for that. I think it's still a point, but that has been the focus for a long time, not on, you know, how do we get more nurses? How do we get more welders? How do we get more electricians? How do we get more, you know, technology, advanced manufacturing folks in these positions? And so it is a culture shift. I think it's a funding shift. I said, you know, hey, look, we have to figure out a way to fund this effectively. I think part of that could be done through the higher ed funding formula. Does that mean that that solves all the problem? I don't know. I don't know that that can be addressed solely through the funding formula, because I will tell you, if you say, well, what would it take to meet this need? And I told our friends in the legislature and our friends in the administration yesterday, I think $100 million. If you gave me $100 million today and $100 million every year going forward, we could solve this problem.
Meaning your system.
Yeah, the system.
And what is our higher
No,
ed
just
budget?
Richard Nelson. Let me give you my count number.
I understand, but what is the higher ed budget?
I mean, right now, the outcomes portion of our formula is 230.
Yes.
Right, 230 million.
But the overall higher ed budget?
600, the formula, 2-year, 4-year is 630.
Yeah, 630, and then I think they added 60 or so.
Million.
So it's about
It's not all
700.
means of finance, right?
Sure. So we need another 100 million.
Yes.
And if you look at where we are, we're saying we're underfunded by
800
More than
million.
800 million. Yeah. So we received an additional 56 million in last legislative session, which brought us up to 691 million for the 2- and 4-year formula. But as President Nelson just stated, if that's non-recurred, then it drops back down to about 634 million. And as Dr. Reed stated, the outcomes portion of the formula, which is 30%, is a little over 200 million.
Okay. I mean, it's just good to know that kind of information, because what I'm seeing now, what I'm experiencing, that you talk about for your coverage, you know, some of those major employers are picking up, you know, my employees and others, because they're already well-trained, they already have these credentials, and offering much more money.
Yes.
And so it's going to drive the wage, you know, rate up, which is not a bad thing. But the training still is going to continue to exist unless we can improve that pipeline.
Mhm.
And so I'm just curious to know, how can we advance that with money? And I do like your strategy with increasing labor participation by looking at a pool of those who may come out of corrections. I mean, that to cut the cost over here and invest right here, you're going to put people at work.
Absolutely. And I think, practically the population of the state is not sufficient to, you have to look in different areas than the people that normally would come here. And I think for our system, normally we've relied on kind of these more adult learners. The average age in our institution is about 26. So we've basically allowed people to go from either graduate from high school, not graduate from high school, and then wait a decade and then decide that they're going to come in and get a better job. That's too long, and we're not going to meet these challenges by letting them, I'd say, wander in the wilderness for 10 years. Like, you got to get them early and get them those skills, and it will be better off for everybody because employers will have the people they need. Those individuals will have the skills they need to make more money for 10 years. Like, the compound value of that is huge. And if the only reason we don't do it is because we have as a state haven't allocated enough money to train them, like, that's a huge failure because the ROI on having us, whether it's somebody coming out of corrections or a high school student or whatever, the ROI for the state is huge. Not to mention the benefit from employers when they actually use those people to solve all their problems, right?
Yep. One of the things you're seeing right now is is poaching, just as Regent Aubrey talked about. And so you can judge the level of the competitiveness of your area based on poaching. And I mean, there is no time in a lot of these, businesses, there's no time to wait 6 months or a year to have somebody trained. They need them now. And and so I really, like you said, I'm $100 million. I mean, it would be worth the investment.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about $300 billion in capital investment. Like, what's $100 million? Point
Yeah.
zero.
You make your money back on those jobs quickly.
Yes, and I mean, I'd say the poaching problem. Like, guess what? If you are looking for an instructor in a high demand field like nursing or welding or electrical, guess what? All of them are getting poached too.
Yes,
and so
that's right.
It's a different dynamic than I think if you have the art professors aren't going anywhere. They're not they're not getting these offers to get 10 times the amount of money. But we've lost, I think, just in the last 2 weeks or something, we've lost like 2 instructors on welding and electrical because they're going to work at Meta or they're going to work on one of these other projects.
That's right.
And so it's tough to do. But if you cannibalize that, you're never going to be able to train all these other people.
That's exactly right.
It's like I said, it's a very complex problem. I'm not going to proffer that there's a simple solution to it, but there's nothing we can do. We have to fix it.
Got to make it happen.
It's going to be the future of the state will not be the future success of this will not be guaranteed. Yes, we've landed these big projects, but if you want to land the next one and you want these to be successful, you're going to have to solve this problem.
That's right.
Are these companies being allowed or made to make their own investments in this?
So, for example, Meta just gave $5 million to Delta Community College up in Monroe. So I think most of these have either been very supportive or helpful. Venture Global is a good partner for us too. They are doing a lot of training down with like Nunez and Chalmette. And then also in Sewella and Lake Charles, a lot of those guys too. I mean, almost every one of these companies, they look at it as an existential problem for them as well, right? At the same time, I mean, I would argue as the former tax guy, they're also paying a lot of taxes. I mean, generally these companies are pretty big and they're paying a lot of taxes. So you can't expect them to just voluntarily be asked every day to contribute millions of dollars to solve these workforce challenges. Like, some of it has to be through state support, which has been, I think we just haven't had an organized way of looking at how do we fund a workforce development program. Like, even the Regents formula, it's really a higher ed program that's mainly focused on 4-year degrees just because that's how it was designed. It's not how do we get people the short-term credentials they need to fill the needs of the workforce. So, and it's, like I said, I would also say it's not just us. It's the whole country has suffered from this. We have something that we need to change.
Point, Regent Aubrey, obviously a lot of these companies do invest in education. If a data center comes to Louisiana per Governor Landry's executive order, they have to invest in workforce training in order to achieve the tax efficient process for their chips. So for some, it's part of their business, but it's a requirement for data centers.
Absolutely. And while up there for the LMA conference in Monroe and sitting at an after-hours establishment, the guy from Corning, who's executive for 5 states, sitting there having a cocktail, said, "Hey, thank you. I appreciate those eight technicians. They understand how to splice fiber, and we're going to keep them employed for the next 5 years and pay them 25% more than what you're paying them." I get it. And we've trained them, and our beginning technicians, we spend $60,000, send them to training centers for that. And we have a model, and we work with your schools. Every one of your graduation class, we send a manager there to talk to them about career and experience, and we agree to give them an interview. But that pipeline is now on steroids because their data centers going up all around the state, and they like our skilled employees, and they understand systems, and they're ready and they're trained to go to work. Not running from it, but I'm saying that we got to figure this out.
Yes, and I think my observation is, like I said, a lot of this is just how we fund things, is that we've said we're going to fund these essentially 4-year degrees, and it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. It doesn't really matter if there's a job waiting for them on the other end. Like, we'll fund those things because we think that's the path. That was kind of the idea. And the truth is that, like we said, a 4-week degree can give you a lot more solid of a job and much quicker. But we don't have a funding stream to do that. Even the new Workforce Pell program, I think, is very, very straitjacketed. It's not going to solve all this problem. That kind of expands how, Pell Grants and how they're available. So most of the funding that has come down at this point is kind of just, it's kind of just whack-a-mole. You create some kind of grant pilot program, and they say, hey, we want a bunch of nurses. Well, guess what? You're going to need a bunch of nurses next year, too. You're going to need a bunch of electricians next year, too. So, I mean, if you say, here's $5 million, go train a bunch of people, that's great. But you're going to have to, you'll always need that. And so we haven't looked at it as a sustainable long-term issue, which has restrained our colleges from saying, we're going to invest in new facilities, we're going to invest in new instructors, we're going to build all the infrastructure to do this. Because you're not going to do it if you get a one-time deal, right? Like, if you get a one-time payment, even if it's a couple $1 million, it doesn't sustain it over the long run. And so what we need is a new way of funding workforce development so that every year you can count on there's this much money if you accomplish these things. And I think that's what we need to work on with the legislature, on how does Louisiana fund that. We're going to have, we're in the middle of this kind of whirlwind of this huge demand. And like I said, I mean, this is, Governor Landry likes to move quickly, and I really appreciate that, and I have been his ally in that. At the same time, we need to solve this problem really quickly, too, because we don't have time to wait till 2030 to figure out, how do we train the workforce of the future, because, SpaceX is going to say they're already launching rockets by 2029. We can't wait that long. So
let me just add a couple of points. I really appreciate Richard being here. For the Board of Regents, and Regent Hickson can speak to this because this was a conversation yesterday, that when we think about talent development and talent retention, we have to really think about the financing models for that. One, as he mentioned, sort of this rapid response funding to seed capacity building at scale that is nimble enough to say over the next 2 or 3 years it may be skilled trades, then it may be something else, et cetera. So how do we do that quickly, rapidly? Because he is right, the value of these phenomenal wins are when Louisiana's people have these jobs. So we have to address that. The formula, which is recurring strategic operating dollars for 2-year and 4-year institutions with outcomes-based, underfunded, but it is part of the equation of a healthcare system, or a higher education funding system. And then, as Richard mentioned, charter schools, so K-12 rather. This idea that every high school student will graduate with college credit, credential, or both. So you're capturing all of those individuals all along the pathway, and you're financing that in a way that really does put momentum on steroids. So those are the conversations that we have to continue to advance as we do this work. But you're exactly right. We did have some conversations. Chancellor Strickland was there yesterday and hit this really hard, and we did try to make sure to position this conversation. And I think Chairman Reese said he wanted to have economic development and workforce come, because we want to make sure that the funding conversation around talent development and talent retention is not solely a formula conversation. It does allow for some seed dollars for innovation and some K-12 engagement as well. Interesting conversation, as the state is both studying the MFP and the funding formula. So it makes sense to have this conversation in totality around what does it look like to fund talent, accelerated and high quality. So those are certainly important points. I agree with you, Regent Aubrey, about corrections. I'll just mention, we just visited, Dr. Vosper's here, we just visited with some of Richard's team and others, the women's prison, and they have horticulture, welding, cosmetology, et cetera, but they wanted technical skills. They wanted HVAC, they wanted plumbing, some of these other things. And so the idea that we're going to scale those kinds of high-quality training opportunities for individuals, I think is really important as well. So I really appreciate this sort of broad tent approach and your enthusiasm, obviously. So it's good to have a kid on the team, I will say that. I really do appreciate
I grew
that
this
energy.
beard just for you, Kim.
And I like that. I like that.
But yeah, so practically, like I said, there's not one answer to this problem. This is like probably the most, honestly, one of the most complex problems in society when you're looking at the broad piece of it. And I'll say I do have a lot of respect for our chancellors and our two-year colleges, because if there's a problem that exists in the state of Louisiana, they know about it because they have to deal with it every day.
Yep.
Whether it's on the employer side, the industry side, or if it's on the individuals going through the programs, like that's where the rubber meets the road. I mean, if they can't get to the college, if they don't have anywhere for their kids, if they can't pay for it. I mean, we see it first. So it is I don't know. We do have a pretty broad scope, which is good, but we do have to do this, I would say, a very focused approach to figuring out how to solve this problem. And it's something that, like I said, our system is pretty well suited. I think we're doing a pretty good job and had done a fine job up till now. It's just the level of the challenge is just infinitely greater than it was before.
I guess. Is this on?
Yep.
Yeah, on the bigger picture, because in the ecosystem of our workforce, we also have to remember that we need to shy away from this Hunger Games mentality of which is better.
Right. That's right.
Because if we need a doctor with the nurse, just like we need a surge tech with the surgeon.
Right.
And so as we think about advancing Louisiana up the scale of not being 50th, it's the full ecosystem of scientists and technicians and everybody. And so as we certainly work to respond to all of this investment, our balanced responsibility as regents is to look at the entire ecosystem.
That's right.
Of workforce, and to really understand in this being underfunded, how do we shift so that the rising tide raises all boats?
That's right. That's exactly right. Thank you, Richard.
Don't worry. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Don't worry. We're going to solve the problem. It's going to be fine.
I have no doubt. Looking forward to 2030. We're going to be ready. No pressure. Members, summer is officially over, and all of our public and private institutions have started back to their fall classes. Students from far and wide have flocked to our campuses, and Saturday night lights are just a few weeks away. As in tradition, we start with our student board member, Maria Nachava. Please tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world, Maria. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Maria Nachava, and I'm a senior biology major at Southeastern Louisiana University. We just started our school this past Wednesday. We did have an increase in our students this year at Southeastern, so that's really, really exciting. I'm really glad we mentioned the food pantry earlier, because Southeastern, we had those conversations with our student government, and every year for our homecoming week, we have all the teams compete in donating to the food pantry. So we are excited to continue that tradition, and our student government is partnering with the food pantry again this year for a Thanksgiving event for the entire campus, in which students are gonna, in a Thanksgiving celebration, will receive meals from our student government and our food pantry. So that's a little about our campus. We're very excited. I know the students are excited. We feel the excitement in the atmosphere, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. We look forward to your continued engagement with our board and you bringing the students' voices to our meetings. It's very important. Speaking of back to school, our colleges and universities are hustling and bustling, and the activity in the fall semester is underway. From first-time freshmen to seniors and grad students, more than 200,000 students are enrolled in our public and post-secondary institutions. We hope that they all have a fantastic and safe fall semester, and we wish them all the best. A few days after our June board meeting, the Commissioner Reed and I took a little trip to St. Helena Parish and to visit Muse 3 Farms in Greensburg, and we have some new best friends. Those guys are great. This small startup family farm was established in 2025 by 4 brothers, Alan Muse, Burnell Muse, Chris Muse, and Mitty Muse. The farm consists of over 200 acres where they grow pine timber, raise cattle, sheep, goats, and chickens. The Muse brothers gave us a tour of their farm and treated us to one of the most delicious farm-to-table lunches that I think I've ever had. It provided a fantastic insight into the Louisiana small business and the impact those businesses have on our state's economy. A big thanks to Regent Glazier and the LSU and Southern Ag directors for joining us. We had a great day, and I've since been out and visited the Muses. We actually went and bought some meat from them recently, and they had over 800 students that have come through just this summer to tour their farm, and they have different groups that come through, and they teach the kids, where their food comes from. It's not just the grocery store. This is how you grow blackberries. This is how you gather eggs. And the kids come out and really don't know what to expect, and the Muses were all like, we have to run them off because they don't want to leave. They're like, can we come back? Can we come back? So the work that they're doing is so exciting, and it's neat to watch a small family, 4 brothers, come together and create a business, but also to give back to their community because they're really doing such a great work. And I look forward to visiting with the Muses more often because hopefully we can have them. We need to have them come visit the board. That would be a great thing. And finally, on Monday, August 31st, Regents will be hosting our annual all-staff retreat at Pennington. Commissioner Reed will be moderating a lunchtime panel with Regent May and Regent Reeves. That should be a rock star lineup. And I'll be joining the commissioner in handing out staff awards to celebrate our talented team. I've been told that there are some amazing door prizes to be given away, so nobody wants to miss. And I can't wait to celebrate this amazing team on Monday because we are truly stronger together. That concludes my comments for this meeting. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our reports and recommendations by Commissioner Reed. Commissioner Reed, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I told her it's Susie Sunshine Day at the Board of Regents between the AI and the Hunger Free and Maria's comments. It's just so exciting. So I really do appreciate that. We are continuing to celebrate and salute rock stars. So you see 6 staff members from the Board of Regents were selected through a competitive process to present at the National SHIO Policy Conference. They all, as Blake would say, technical term, crushed it. They crushed it, and so we really appreciate their good work on the national stage and very, very proud of them. We're excited that Louisiana is one of 8 states that was selected by SHIO for their Advancing State and System Strategies for Work-Based Learning. This is a national multi-state initiative designed to help states build, scale, work-based learning experiences, and from hearing the conversation even today from Dr. Hornsby, the importance of infusing credentials and work-based learning and real relevant experiences into the credential, and so we're very excited about that project and looking forward to it as well. The chair mentioned that it's back to school, and one of the partnerships that we had over the last month was with the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs, Doug Dupree, the student that was there, and then Liam Doyle, who was the executive director. So we did 2 things. We hosted a listening session with students with physical disabilities to talk with them about their campus experiences and how to build community. And then Bree Golden and Maria, the COF students, invited these students from the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs to talk about the listening session and the importance of building community and supporting all students. And so we really appreciate the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs for engaging with us, and we look forward to further engagements with them as well. Then finally, really appreciate this board and this staff for supporting, and certainly Emily for leading on the foster youth project, which you know we love, and you see from this picture how the backpacks are growing. So when we adopted this project, this is our favorite service project at the Board of Regents, which is to support college-going foster youth, Louisiana's children, to send them to college like we would one of our own, with what they need for college. When we started, we had 20-something students, maybe even in the teens. And so now I'm going to look, Emily, and we're at 65 foster youth from Louisiana who are starting college this fall. And so you see here, every year we collect, with your support and the staff and others, the supplies that students need, whether they're going to stay on campus or if they're going to be a commuter. We bring them to the Department of Children and Family Services because their staff distribute. We don't know the names of the students. We just know what college they're going to and whether they'll be residential or not. And so our staff brings it to their staff, and their staff delivers the goods to those college students with well wishes from the governor's fellows. The governor's fellows do handwritten notes in every backpack from a college student to a future college student wishing them well. So that's very special, and so we love that project. So with that more Susie Sunshine, that concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
I don't want this day to end. This is great. Thank you so much for those comments. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? All right. Members, looking ahead, our next meeting will be 2 days in September. We will host our annual higher education budget hearings on Tuesday, September 22nd, followed by our board meeting that will be Wednesday, September 23rd. So make sure you mark your calendars. We will be approving the first year 27 budget, as well as hearing the progress made with the latest master plan update. Emily, do we have any public comments? We do not. Hearing none.
Yeah, before you hit, Mr. Vice Chair, you have some business you want to share with us today. You just slid in here representing Southern University. He's up the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors for Southern University, Mr. Abrams.
Thank you so much for coming today.
We're about to hit adjourn, though.
That's right. Maybe you came just at the right time. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Okay, we had another tie. We had Regent Sterling and Regent Hickson. Is there any further discussion, question, or objections? Hearing none, here's my favorite part. We are adjourned. Thank you.